What's up, you guys? Meister Ender here. Just a quick prelude before we actually get into the video. As you can see, it's going to be a long one, and I don't want to make it any longer than it's already going to be. I just wanted to give you a little bit of information as to why I'm making this video. So what this is it's going to be a tier list of every single operator that we have in Rainbow Six Siege up to this point, except for the newest operator, Sens. We're currently in day 3 of year 7, season 2, and that the purpose of this video, fishing out every single one of the operators in this tier list, is because I've noticed a general void in the content creator community, especially for the average player, where coming into Siege is very daunting, and it's very hard to find the information you need, the building blocks that you need to understand who these operators are, what it is that they do, the value that they provide for your team, the control that they can have in a map, especially in a ranked environment, again, for the average player. So I'm taking this opportunity to separate out, to parse out every single one of these operators, put them into their in my personal opinion, their placement on this tier list, and I go into the general specifics as to why I feel like they fall into these areas of the tier list, the strengths that they have, the weaknesses they have, the general value that they bring for the team, because that's really the game of Rainbow Six Siege as we know it. It's about the control that an individual or a team has of the map, and in any specific situation in a general round, the value that as an individual you can implement into that round in order to secure the victory for your team. Um, so as I go through and I separate it out in the finality of this tier list, my general plan going forward is to try and break down in a video or two every single one of the operators that we have here, and to explain why it is I've placed them in their specific tier on this list, and the general play styles that you can have to assist your team to climb the ranks, whether it's a solo queue or I usually play either solo or a duo queue environment, but ideally in a 5 stack, because that is like the true Rainbow Six Siege experience, is to have that 5 stack, that 5 individuals on a team that are really communicating and going at it pretty hard, and just having a great time, and yeah, that's really all I've got for you guys. Just really want to assist the community in any way that I can. So if you guys wouldn't care, let's get on to the video. Please like and subscribe. So this is basically how I'm going to place them out. So Sledge, we can start with Sledge. Irreplaceable. He has vertical play. So his hammer is usable on literally every single site. You're dealing with castle. Not anymore. Bulletproof cameras, any bulletproof utility. Not dealing with them anymore. He can pop open hatches as long as they're not reinforced. He's gonna make holes in walls, holes in floors, sight lines. He's got 2 nades, an insane gun. His gun is I would say heavily underrated, and it is pretty valued by the community. So that's saying something. He has one of the absolute best guns. High damage, good rate of fire. Attacker guns, most of them don't have a comparable rate of fire to defense, but even still, he's just monstrous. If he still had the SMG as his secondary, which they recently removed just a couple seasons ago, I mean, he would just be far and above everybody else. Not that I agree with them taking it away, but I guess I understand it's not that he needed it. So he has a consistent, very consistent high value for your team. He has the possibility for team play with those frags. He can clear off utility. He can open up lines of sight. Absolute irreplaceable, top tier. So the next one that we can get into is Smoke. Again, irreplaceable operator. These SAS operators, I will tell you right now, I mean, they're fundamentally they're built into the framework of the game, and it shows because they are insanely strong. All barring Thatcher, which is a whole nother, that's a meta argument, a meta discussion really. But Smoke, so his utility, fantastic. He has 3 beauties. They pop up smoke over a decent area that deal. I can't exactly remember the specific amounts of damage, but needless to say, somebody is not going to be planting in your smoke. Very good kill potential. He's got a shotgun. He has a for option for a primary, which a lot of people
used because he can pop rotates. Is really good for close quarters. Is in my opinion the best shotgun in the game. Very good one-shot potential. His other primary option is a fantastic SMG. He also carries the SMG as a secondary, which is just wonderful. That's usually everybody just uses it as a primary, and you just pop shots off. Has one of the absolute highest rates of fire. It's ridiculous. Fantastic for headshots if you can get any form of control out of it. Secondary utility. He has a shield, and that's all you need to know. That's what you'll use. The bulletproof shields are one of the strongest pieces of utility in the game, primary or secondary otherwise. So his value. Again, we spoke about it earlier. Towards the end of the round, dealing with Executor, if you're dealing with a strongly coordinated team trying to execute, he can just put an absolute stop to that. So he's an irreplaceable pick. Thatcher. Thatcher is in an unfortunate place. He's good, so his utility that he brings to the table is an EMP grenade. Can disable, used to destroy. If it's still destroyed, oh, he would be irreplaceable without a doubt. But it disables gadgets for a time, 10 seconds, I believe, 15 seconds. I'm not entirely sure on that one, and they are reworking him just a little bit, but it doesn't really change much. So he has 3 of those. Issue with that being, Bandit tricking is a thing. They just buffed Bandit, who can electrify walls. So if you're picking Thatcher to assist with your Ace, your Hibana, your Thermite, half of the time it's not going to work unless you have a third individual to assist with what is going on. If you have a line of sight over the area, if you have somebody who can nade off for you. They're also about to introduce the secondary EMP. In my opinion, it's about to make Thatcher more or less obsolete. I would prefer always as hard breach support to just have Maverick, Callie, heck, bring Ashe, bring Zofia, bring anyone with nades. They're in a better spot than Thatcher is right now to actually assist with you. He does have a good gun, fantastic primary weapon. In my opinion, he also brings a shoddy, but you don't really need to know about that. He has a fantastic AR-15. Wonderful pistol is all right as a secondary. He brings, I believe it's breaching charges. So he brings some secondary utility for your team, and he has a good gun. But right now, he just is not in a great state for his role. He still works, but it takes coordination to actually get it off. Since I accidentally put Blitz up here anyways, we might as well work him in. Blitz and I do not have a very fond relationship, and I can tell you that right now. Ubi, please fix his flashes. So he has a shield as his quote unquote primary, and it's his ability. He can flash with it. The flash radius is inconsistent. There are times where you could be staring right at it, you won't get flashed. You could be turned around, you will get flashed. You could be halfway across the room, you'll get flashed. He could be on top of you, and you won't get flashed. Completely inconsistent. He's not bad. He is extremely niche, and it requires a level of coordination with your team to actually be severely aggressive and to be able to take sight in order to use him. I think that there is a better option for him available. I really wish I could get into it and break that down as to what it would be that he could use, but right now he's hardly usable. Not very good at all. So past him, we're looking at Mute. Mute, irreplaceable. Mute is probably my favorite defense operator. I will tell you that right now. He might be first or second. We'll get into that too. So Mute's primary utility, he has jammers. 4 of them, if I can remember correctly. He sets them down. There's a general radius that you'll see whenever you set them down. It denies anything electrical from being able to operate in that area. So he counters almost every single primary utility of the attacking team. We're talking air jabs, Nomad air jabs. We're talking claymores, drones, drone denial, and if we're talking about value that people bring, especially with their gadgets, the most valuable gadget that an individual has on attack is their drone. Intel is the most valuable piece of information that you can have. Intel is the most valuable possession that you have, I'm sorry, as an attacker. To know where someone is, to know, even based off of sound, where someone could be, is monumental and is the sole proprietor for bringing a win to your team. Doesn't matter what you do. You can have the best guns in the world. You can have the best gunners in the world. You can have a full team of pros that think that they just know exactly what is going on and they can win their gunfights despite whatever it is that you'll bring. If you can outsmart them, you will win. If you watch any interviews with Fabian, uh, old member of G2, that whole era, Fabian, Pengu, we're talking Uno, like that whole OG team and everything that came from Penta. It's not that they were better uh, to win gunfights. They were smarter. They understood the game more. That's why they dominated. They had an understanding of the game that was just at a deeper level than other people, and so they could dominate in that fashion because of that. It wasn't that they could win their gunfights based off of talent, but they could put themselves in positions that were winning positions, and that's how this game operates. It's all about the knowledge that you have, where you can place yourself. Even if you have bad aim, I have awful aim. And I will tell you that any day of the week. But I try and have a general understanding of what is going on and how I can win my gunfights. Doesn't mean I always follow my own rules, and I'm far above anywhere near one of the best players of the game. I'm at best mid. But hopefully this information that I give you will just support you a little bit later on, and allow you to climb if you're just building rank or you just want to know a little bit more about the game. But yeah, so his mutes jammers, denies any intel over that range, drones, Yana clones. I mean, just go over the list of attacker gadgets and everything, and he cancels them. IQ can't use hers. Zofia unfortunately can. Ying can. Let's see. Jackal's goggles won't operate in that area. Getting into it, Dokkaebi can't call if she's in it. If she's out of it and she does call, and you're in the radius of a mute jammer, it does not. It doesn't bother you. If Lion is scanning, you can run around through it. Doesn't harm you. Um, it's just an absolute myriad of abilities that attackers bring. Mute just shuts down. He denies or at least delays breaching utility. So especially in Pro League, he's almost like the primary wall denial operator that's being used right now. He's far and above one of the strongest operators in the game. And that's if he didn't bring a weapon, he would still be in that role. But he has the same kit as Smoke, fantastic shotgun primary or SMG primary. He also brings an SMG secondary, just wonderful kit. Hard to beat it. On top of that, his secondary utility, Nitro Cell. You want to get aggressive. You want to be able to deny plants, get kills. He has a lot of roles that he can fill. The downside is usually the role that Mute will fill. He's the one that gets to do setup for the team. So he's reinforcing, he's placing down his Mute jammers to deny intel for the enemy team. He has a lot of stuff that he has to do. So basically, a lot of teams just piggyback off of what a Mute can bring. And it can be hard if you're just trying to like solo Mute or anything like that to actually be everywhere at once and do everything that your team needs you to do. Sorry. So next operator that we bring in, Thermite. Yeah, Thermite is he's pretty great. He opens up the biggest hole in a wall. So his utility, he can destroy reinforced areas, reinforced walls, reinforced hatches. He brings 2 breaching charges activated through Thermite. Can be denied by Mute and such. It opens up the biggest hole of any of the operators, with barring Ace, but Ace would have to burn all 3 of his charges in order to open up what Thermite does, just in one. Again, downside is he only has 2, so at best he could open up a wall and a hatch or 2 hatches. Very good gun in my opinion. Oh, what is it that he brings? His AR is just fantastic. He actually shares it with Osa. I wish I could remember the name of it at this time, but I cannot. He also has a shotgun primary, irrelevant most of the time. Every now and then, if people are memeing, you will see him bring it. Secondary utility smokes, very important, especially since he's the one getting open that wall. If he can actually have any form of longevity and can assist with planting, using those smokes is just fantastic. The meta that we're about to be going into, Glaz is going to be a 3-speed. This, where is his symbol right here? This sniper right here who can see through smoke. He's about to have the Bearing 9 and SMG secondary, and he's going to dominate. So that smoke plant meta, or playing off of the denying lines of sight meta, with Sens the new operator coming in as well, is going to be extremely strong, and Thermite fits so well into that niche. But for right now, in my opinion, because it takes a fair bit of coordination and everything to actually provide value with him, I would say he's great. He's definitely by no means less than great. He is not the best, however. So I think great is the situation that he falls in. So Ash has had a trip, man. She used to be the primary fragger. She has had a myriad of nerfs come her way, and she's going to land, in my opinion, at situational. She doesn't have bad guns. Her R4C used to dominate. She was the primary fragger for almost everyone for such a long time. Anytime you hear somebody bring up Siege, they usually talk about the toxic Ash main. There's a reason for that, because 10 seconds into a round, she would be pushing site, and she would have 4 of your people dead. You'd be in a 1v5 situation, and she'd just be 360ing everybody around. Fantastic operator originally. Now, she had that huge nerf to the R4C. Her G36C primary, her other primary gun, is very good, 1.5 times sight. But her utility is where she's really fallen off. She has 2 breaching charges, Ash charges is what everybody is really going to be calling them. She launches them. If it hits something like electrified, it will just completely disable it, so it can be destroyed like that. But it is generally just a noob tube that sticks to an area and detonates and can open up soft areas, destroy bulletproof utility, things like that. There was a time where she had 4. Ridiculous. She was very strong. And the blast radius went very high. So really, the reason why I put her down at situational, most entry fraggers right now probably going to be opting for something like Sledge, maybe Buck as a secondary fragger, things like that. Even Twitch at times, who have guns that are better, hit harder, shoot faster. And they also bring a lot more general utility to your team, that will allow their value to just be carried out much more into the late game. Ash, her real role, if you need to bring a lot of destructibility to destroy bulletproof gadgets, or you have a plan to get like bandits or mute jammers off of floors, and you want to hit them from underneath, people will really use her just for that right now. Although, if that is what you're going to be doing, I would say play an operator that uses frags. Finka is so strong predominantly in the meta right now, just because she has a fantastic gun that blows Ash away. She carries frags, so she can do equal the amounts of destructibility, and she has the lethality to combat any other operator in the game, unlike Ash. She has an ability to heal your team, to pick up your team, to allow your team to reload faster. Finka and other operators like Sledge, Twitch, their utility is what pushes Ash away and just puts her in that situational spot. She is usable, but only if you have a specific plan in mind. She fills roles nicely, but there are other people that will just always be better at this point unless they continue to buff her and add more to her utility right now. So situational. Castle. Man, people probably won't agree with this, but in my opinion, Castle is a great operator. He applies bulletproof barricades that can be hit out with, 9 hits now? It used to be 10, if I can remember. Or they can be destroyed, like Sledge can swing at a castle and destroy it. Any explosive utility, like Ash, or breaching charges, anything of the sort, Zofia can take them down. But being able to deny, if he brings 4 of those, 4 doors, windows, extremely strong. His primary, the ump, a lot of people think it's like one of the worst guns in the game. It works very well, in my opinion. Even though it has a slow fire rate, I mean, it feels like you're like pushing pencils at the rate of fire that it has. Tat 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 tat. But in my opinion, it works very well. It's easily controlled, especially with a one hit headshot mechanic. As long as you can pull that off, works very well. It hits hard, harder than a lot. Castle also brings in his secondary weapon, the shorty, so he can create rotates. He can block off doors. He has beepers. If anybody comes into to an area in the general vicinity that it covers, they will sound off. So it gives you a lot of intel. So he denies lines of sight, denies areas, opens up rotates, provides intel for your team. Just a fantastic operator in my opinion overall. Great, not absolutely the best, not irreplaceable, but he works on almost every single site. The main downside that Castle has is that he can be a detriment to your team if you're not cooperating with them properly. If everybody wants to roam, you leave one person on site, the enemy team sees it, they kill that one person on site, and they have sight, and you have to break down 4 castle barricades in order to get there. That's a problem. That castle is not operating uh, properly with your team, and was a huge detriment. So you can run into that over time, especially in low ranks. It's very annoying. Um, but if he is used anywhere near properly, he provides a huge amount of value for your team in delaying and denying area. So Pulse, the other side of that coin, Pulse is situational. Has more or less the same kit as Castle, other than the fact that he doesn't have the secondary weapon, the shorty, to open up rotates. His utility, though primary utility, is a heartbeat scanner, so he provides intel for your team. And he's usually used to deny plants or to kind of secondary roam off-site to get an idea where enemy teams are coming from, or where they are, how they're progressing through a map. He has a nitro in his secondary utility for obvious reasons. He can throw it onto soft floors and get 1 or 2 kills through the floor. He has a spam shotgun as his primary, as well as castle, other than the ump, which every now and then is usable for him, specifically for like that vertical play that he provides. So he seems like he brings a whole lot, but since he is almost always primarily playing off-site, he can be a target for the enemy team, especially because of what it is that he does. And if he burns through his utility preemptively, he provides next to nothing for the team. The Pulse is an example of an operator whose value in specific moments is so high, almost higher than any other operator on the field. But 90% of the time, 95% of the time, offers almost nothing. He does provide that intel, which with a well-coordinated team, especially you'll see it if you watch any pro league, there are certain sites, certain times people bring that pulse out, and it can do some work for them. Oftentimes it fails, even in the level of the pros. So just speaking for like the general player, at best, it's almost at an Ubi please fix. But at best, I would say he lands at situational. So pushing past that, we have Montagne. So Montagne is interesting right here. He has like Blitz, a shield for his primary. Difference being, his shield covers his entire body. He can extend it out. That is like his ability. He's a fortress. I would say, really, I personally want to put him in situational. I would say he's probably good. Being that he's relying on his secondary, so he has no real primary option gun-wise. He works very well in a coordinated stack, even a duo. Works well to execute for plants. I believe he brings smokes. So that's really gonna push him up a little bit more as well. Smokes or hard breach charges, flashes. Can't remember off the top of my head. But again, he operates well in like a coordinated stack. He can be that bulletproof fortress that you're needing to in order to initiate a push. He's a very good pocket pick, um, to just whip out if you can see an opening in the enemy's defenses on defense and everything that will just allow you to spearhead and push forward. 1v1 scenarios especially, he kind of shines. Post plant is where you want him. Because he can operate as that drone that has little to no risk to himself because he can't get shot if he's operating right. So I would say he is good. He's definitely not the best operator to bring most of the time. There is somebody that you would want to use aside from Montagne that will provide a little bit more utility for your team. Like I said, I wanted to put him. I personally would want to put him into situational, but I think that he is on the up and coming again. There was a time where you would see individuals like in Pro League, like Pengu or somebody pull out the Montagne, and they were just absolute beasts with him. Don't sleep on the pistols is all I would say on that, because there can be a fair amount of lethality whenever the only thing that you can shoot is Montaigne's head. So moving on, we've got Twitch. A huge fan of Twitch, honestly. So let's see, where do you want to put her? Fantastic gun, probably one of the best attacker guns in the F2. Her utility, she sends out, she has 2 drones with tasers that have, for the context of Siege and infinite range, that can interact with a myriad of gadgets and destroy them. Bandit charges, mutes. She counters a lot. We'll put her at great. She also brings smokes for denying lines of sight, plant assist, things like that. Secondary entry fragger, intel operator support, flex. I mean, she really falls in that like flex role that can shift to wherever you need her. She is great. There are times where you may want a little bit more general utility for your team, but she fits into so many roles so nicely with that fantastic gun. The F2, understand, is just it melts. Best fire rate for attack by far. It just shreds. Headshot machine. Basically aim at the chest and let it do its work. Her utility, since she has 2 drones, which again, drones, that intel is the most useful utility that you have as an attacker. You would think almost at that rate she would be irreplaceable, but there are those operators that just bring a little bit more utility that's so necessary for your team, because she doesn't have the ability to destroy bulletproof utility on the defense side. So there are a couple of downsides to bringing her, although she usually fits into many roles very well. So moving on from that, Doc. His primary options, he's got the MP5, which is almost what everybody will use, and then the Pro 90, the meme gun. It's fine. His utility is almost like the downside to him. I personally, I'm gonna put him at an Ubi please fix. So he has the stim pistol. He can fire 3 shots that heal for 40 health, 45. So in total, I believe he can heal for 125 health in all. He can heal himself or allies at a range. And the main downside, because of course in a game where you're going to be probably taking chip damage here and there, you'd think that would be so useful. But there are other operators that do what he does better. Thunderbird he can heal for so much more, especially over time, or even immediately can heal for more than Doc will the entire round. Even if he got the optimal use of every single time out of his heals. Now he can res at a distance if it is absolutely necessary, but he offers next to nothing for your defensive side. He has an okay gun that other operators also have. His utility, other operators have better utility that does the exact same thing and more than what he has. His secondary utility, bulletproof cam, I believe is what you'd be bringing on him, which is good for intel, but you have many operators with bulletproof secondary utilities. You have Valkyrie who can put up cameras. You have Mozzie who can take, not just have cams for himself, but he takes drones from the attacker side and uses them as intel for you, which is hugely underrated in my opinion. So yeah, Doc he needs some love. He needs some help. Rook is interesting. I don't really want to look at what is coming, but what is right now. But I cannot deny the fact that currently in the test server, Rook has the ability, if you have armor, to allow your teammates to res themselves. That is very big. um, I, he always has some value. So what Rook does is he puts down breastplates, bulletproof uh, bulletproof vests that your teammates can pick up. Each one for one of your teammates can pick one up, and then it's depleted, which used to show armor for your operators, but now it equates to individual health. It allows you to tank a nade. So if a nade falls on you, like if it landed in your mouth and blew up in this game, it would down you, not kill you. Which there's a lot to be said for that. It gives you some longevity. So there's a fair amount of value. Now, if the ability to self-res comes into the main server, he I, he is going to climb. Currently, I would place him at situational. He has that MP5, he has that Pro 90. He brings impacts, very good to open up rotates or destroy some utility on the attacker side. There's a lot to be said. Again, just in his utility, that's where Doc really falls off. They're almost the same operator aside from the utility that they bring, primary and secondary. If his utility, Rooks, allows you to self-res that comes to the main server, he would almost go up to great. Because that MP5 is a great gun on the defensive side. Having those impacts to open up rotates and provide a little bit of support for your team goes a long way. Secondary is just revolver, regular pistol, nothing crazy there. But he has some destructive capability with that revolver, so it is kind of nice. But currently there are other defensive operators that just bring a lot more utility, a lot more support for your team. So I would say he's situational right now. You can always use him. He will always work, but it's very rare that you would want him. Moving on to Fuze. Fuze is an attacker. So he has cluster charges, 4 of them, that he can put on bulletproof and soft walls, floors, that will burn through and drop mini grenades. Will shoot them out, sometimes at a good distance. Fuze usually used to get a lot of hate, just because his kit was undesirable. You would frag teammates, he'd kill teammates. Especially whenever reflective fire came back in, you might kill a teammate and bounce yourself. You would remove yourself from the match, so it was really a risk to bring Fuze. But now the fact that he can go through reinforced walls, he is a fantastic utility clear. Probably the best in the game, in my opinion. Just because he can do so much so quickly. There are many bomb sites that he works, especially to take vertical control with and just fuse down and clear sites. It provides a great amount of room in a ranked environment for your team to operate. For the general player, I would say he is good to great. I will for the time being, I'll put him a little bit lower. I'll put him in good. There's a lot that he does. His primary weapon, the AK, is a lot of people used to hail it as like one of the best weapons, if not the best weapon on attack. Damage wise, it is statistically the best weapon, but it currently got a nerf, or recently got a nerf, for a little bit of its recoil. Still very usable. I'm not great with it. Again, I don't have the best aim, but a lot of people genuinely love it. He also brings a shield, which is pretty unique for an attacker to also have a shield option as one of their primaries, and an LMG, which is kind of a big deal right now in the meta. but most people are just going to opt for the AK. Some people bring that LMG. Next to nobody brings the shield. Secondary utility, he does have smokes, which applies a lot. You know what? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to bump him up to great. He has the smokes to assist with your team. He can make so much room for your team, barring the idea that you might accidentally do some damage to your team. You have to really coordinate well. So if you can't manage to do that, he can be a heavy detriment, kind of like Castle. If you cannot communicate well with your team, you may be doing more harm than good, though most of the time you will be doing much, much good with him, especially in that utility clear, just making space. I think that is pretty well deserving of a great operator spot. Going next, oh man, Glaz. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. Currently, right now, he's situational. He has smokes. He can see through the smoke. He can assist with plant. He has the semi-automatic rifle that does okay damage. I mean, like 57 a shot. It's a 2-shot more or less, at least to down. Almost every single operator in the game. They're 3 armor, and they've got Rook shield on, or Rook vest on. Bulletproof vest. Aside from that, he also brings nades as a secondary utility, which can be usable, but currently, especially in the meta that we have, smokes are really wanted on the meta that we're going into now. Currently he is a 1-speed. Coming out tomorrow, he will be moving into a 3-speed with a secondary option of the Bearing 9, a really good SMG. A lot of people referred to it as like the Pocket F2 because it has a ridiculous rate of fire. It can be controlled, just basically pull down. um, fairly all right. He's gonna be a menace. He might, between today and tomorrow. Actually, maybe for him we should, because we know that this is coming to the live server, we should look at him in the context of being a 3-speed with smokes and the Bearing 9. Guaranteed he's coming out to the main server. He is about to single-handedly push us. He and the new operator Sens are going to push us into a new meta of denying lines of sight, smoking, and planting. It's going to be year 2 all over again. Year 2, year 3, smoke plants all over again. Ying, Glaz, Nomad, Zofia, just a whole bunch of operators. Twitch, Thermite, Gridlock. Operators with smokes that have utility to either destroy or deny areas, just going to be, they're going to run rampant. We'll have to put him at great. That is the difference of making him a 3-speed with the Bearing 9. It is going to be. He could be a primary entry fragger at this point. He's secondary at worst. Entry fragger, he is going to have a lot of lethality, a lot of kill potential. And not many people are going to be able to counter what he does, especially if you're in a well-coordinated team. There are already times currently in like the pro metas where you'll see certain teams bring him. There was an example, Dokkaebi from G2 currently. He used to play for Navi. Now he's slotted in G2 in Europe. Brought him on a coastline take with Osa, who also brings who has the shields great for post plant and establishing control of an area. And he did very much work Doki did with Glaz, and this is before all of these changes. So I think we're about to see Glaz rise to the top, which gives anybody with the Glaz elite a great chance to shine. Like personally, my favorite elite in the game. Fantastic, really stunts on everybody. So moving to the next operator, we're going to be looking at Tachanka, the Lord. Whew. So, a lot of people are really sleeping on Tachanka right now. He fills a great role in pro meta, but as a common player, just grinding through ranks and everything, Tachanka's good. So they reworked him. His primary utility, the Shumika launcher, basically a noob tube that instead of exploding on impact or anything like that, will drop an incendiary grenade that will cover fire for a brief time, 7 seconds, something like that, 10. He does have a fair bit of them. There are many lines of sight that you can create. like on Bank, the basement site of Bank, where you can from a safe distance, you can open up lines of sight and use that to deny areas like common plant spots, default plant spots. His primary weapon is a hefty LMG that has high damage, great for opening up rotates and providing assistance for your team. Obviously high magazine capacity because LMG go burr. Although it does have a very like pencil pusher slow fire rate. Tap 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 tap. Even that being said, fire rate is king. It's still a great option. His secondary utility, he has a bulletproof shield, extremely complementary to his kit. He works on a ton of sites. I would love to see him utilized a little bit more. If we see him implemented a little bit more in some metas, maybe currently in this one that's coming out, with Glaz being so dominant. I would say he is probably going to get bumped up from good to great. Just depends on how people are actually going to utilize him. If you get in a team that can use him properly, it is oppressive. Combining him with smoke, a whole lot of trap operators and everything, just a lot of area denial. It can feel oppressive at that point. So currently, I would say he's good. We'll see how he's utilized in the upcoming metas, but it'll be interesting. He is in a very good spot right now. Kapkan is a trap operator, I would say, and this is going to be very beta of me. I love Kapkan. If everything is going wrong, and I'm just having an awful night in ranked, I can pull out Kapkan, and I know I can provide assistance for my team. So what Kapkan does, we're gonna put him at good. What Kapkan does, his primary utility. He has entry denial devices, EDDs. He has 5 of them that he can put on door frames, window frames, the like, and he can stack them. One will do, I believe it's like 51 damage. Basically, two is like a guaranteed down for the most part. If somebody hits 2 of them, if not a kill. Um, so you put them in a doorway, 5 of them. You could put them in 5 doorways. You could stack 2 on a doorway, 3 on a doorway. It's pretty much your choice. To deny area, it provides intel. If somebody walks through it, you hear a large bang and you see some smoke, you know somebody's coming from that area. If somebody does go through it and they take that hit, they take that 50 plus damage. They're disoriented. It shakes your screen, which apparently we're going to be able to turn off in the upcoming season. But we'll see if anybody actually pays attention to that, because half the time people don't. Um, and at best, it's a sound cue, because if at the very least somebody doesn't hit it, they're going to shoot it off, or you'll see somebody burn a Twitch taser for it, the likes of that. So he provides a lot of utility for the team. He has a lot of lethality, especially we talked about value at the beginning of the video, where as a round goes on, the value of some operators go up. If you've got 20 seconds left in a round and it's a 5v5 and people have to go, push to that side to get kills and execute, they will be hitting your cap cans. If somebody is close, you could kill. You'll see videos on YouTube where one person will push through a doorway with 2 cap can traps on it. There will be 3 people following close behind. It might kill 2 of them. It might kill 3 of them. It could kill all of them if they're all grouped up and really trying to push through at the exact same time. They're too close. He provides a lot of value as the rounds go on. He's also, he can be exceptionally useful as a roamer, because he can deny off and allow you to have those sound cues. So if you and another individual are trying to roam and get things going for your team, maybe a quick pick, or to just waste time for your team, so the enemy team can't get to their site, to your site, he fits well into that role. It's not really used that much for that, but every now and then, even especially in Pro League, you'll see that used. So in my opinion, personally, I love Kapkan. He's one of my absolute. He's in my top 5 for sure. Defensive operators by a mile. He's good. He's not great. He does have impacts on a C4. Secondary utility, his primary weapon, the 9x19, fantastic SMG, one of the best. His utility, though, especially on defense, just because of its nature, even though it does provide a lot of lethality, and as time goes on, uh, becomes more and more valuable, is fairly obvious. in for the common player, if somebody notices there's a Kapkan, usually, especially because he's been in it since the game's inception, people will be very hesitant and they'll check doorways and they'll be taken off. Although almost every round you use him, one of them will get activated, and it feels so good, especially if 1v1s, 1v2s, you died in the first 15 seconds of a round, and you kill one or two people. Oh, it feels so good. It's a great operator, in my opinion. But for the meta, for the niche aspects of the game, I would say he falls into the good category. IQ, I hate IQ. I will not elaborate on this. No, I'm just kidding. IQ, Uvi, please fix. She provides next to nothing for your team. She has great guns. She's a great fragger. She used to have frags as a secondary utility, but now she does not. Breaching charges and flashes, I believe, if I can remember correctly. She may actually have claymores now, but I doubt it. So, aside from the fantastic guns, 3 options, each one of them absolutely wonderful. One of them being the LMG, to be considered one of the best guns in the game. I would say top 3 guns in the game. Her primary utility, she pulls out a scanner and she can spot electrical devices from a distance. She fills next to no roll. She does nothing that a drone does not already do. Other than the fact that she can spot a Vigil or a Pulse using their gadget, or if somebody gets on cams, she can kind of see that through the wall. Just a little bit. She does provide that little amount of information for your team, and information is king, so that does kind of matter. She is good at spotting Valkyrie cameras, but if your team is working properly, just for the common ranked individual, you should be able to see that. You should be able to drone that. Especially, it bothers me greatly to watch a pro league game and watch somebody bring IQ. I understand that it is the easy way out, and you probably don't want to take the steps that it takes to spot Valkyrie cameras or watch out for it. But Valkyrie can't even throw her cams outside anymore. If you do your due diligence and you drone out a site and you operate properly as a teammate of your 5-stack or of your 4 of your duo stack, as a solo player, you can take it upon yourself to drone out for cams. You do not need an IQ. IQ provides next to nothing for your team. If she could disable a device using her even 3 times, let's say they gave it to her as a 3-time use only. If she could do that, her value would skyrocket. But currently, she does almost nothing, less than nothing. She takes a role of utility for your team. In my opinion, it is a detriment. Other than the fact that she has a good gun. That's it. That's what she does. I'll get off of my high horse. I'm a very, very huge hater of IQ. So Bandit. Bandit recently got a change, got a buff. He can place multiple batteries on a wall now. Comes in great for bandit tricking. People love it. People love to see a bandit trick. It's fantastic. It just soothes your soul to see someone properly bandit trick and destroy some attacker utility. He has a fantastic gun, the MP7. He also brings, if not the best, because I would say the SAS shotgun is the best, the most memeable, or second most memeable shotgun in the game. Great memes with kill potential, cross variant right there. His primary utility, he does place his their batteries on a wall. It electrifies the wall, so he does fill a very good role on defense. Although it requires an active personality to really play him because of the options that attack has to remove those bandit charges. So having someone dedicated to actually tricking is extremely important. I would say he falls into the good category. Again, great gun, great utility, very essential utility. There are a couple of operators that have an equally essential but utility, but they do it better. Like mute. Mute fills more or less that role. Um, excuse me. But he also denies intel as well. He cancels out a lot of gadgets for the enemy team. Claymores, everything, anything electrical. Mute counters. Bandit just wall denial. His secondary utility, he does have a nitro cell, which I would highly recommend bringing, or barbed wire. Barbed wire is not nearly as good as it used to be. It's not that it doesn't fill any role anymore. His other secondary utility in the nitro cell just operates at a higher capacity, and that's really what you're going to be wanting for denial, for lethality. He fills that good role nicely, and he is very usable, especially on some sites more than others. Jager, ah, I mean, even if Jager didn't have a gun on him, he would be irreplaceable. So the utility that Jager brings in his primary utility, he brings ADS's trophy systems, 3 of them, that can each deny 1 throwable, a lot of things that are shot. Excuse me. Ash charges, things like that, smokes, grenades, myriad of other things, a lot of throwable, shootable utility. It zaps out of the air, destroys it, neutralizes it. On every 10 seconds, it re-ups its charge. So if they're not handled with properly and people don't stack utility on top of it to destroy them or to bypass it, 1 ADS, all 3 ADSs, again, if utilized in this manner, could take out every single piece of utility on the attacker team. Every throwable piece, ash charges, things like that. Is very good. Even if he did not have a weapon, he would be in this irreplaceable category just for the fact that it takes grenades and smokes out of the air. Grenades and smokes are highly effective. We are in a grenade meta currently right now. The common attacker lineup that you're going to see Finka, you're going to see Maverick, you're going to see Sledge, you're going to see operators on top of operators, at least 3, half of the time 4, maybe even 5, all with grenades. Maybe they'll swap off 1 for smokes or 1 for flashes just to burn utility. But almost every single time you will see 6 grenades on the board coming at you. The more grenades that are brought, the more throwables that are brought, the more utility that can be shot and can be interacted with by Jager's ADSs, his trophy systems, will just allow Jager's value to climb higher and higher. If they're left on the board, especially if it's a late execute and they're still there, his value increases that much more because it will cause the attacking team to panic. On top of the fact that he has a fantastic primary that has been nerfed into oblivion and is still fantastic in his carbine is ridiculous. His secondary pistol is what it is. Secondary utility is what it is. Who could care? He has a great gun, top tier, S tier, top of the line utility that will always see value. Always see value. It doesn't matter how Siege changes, it will always see value. I would be shocked, Season 3, Season 4, we don't see another operator that interacts with utility in this manner, or at least a manner similar to it, because currently we only have 2 in Jager and Wamai, and they do both operate differently, and they have different value statistics as the round progresses and how their utility is utilized. But 2 is not enough in the climbing amount of operators that we have on defense and attack, and the more throwables and secondary utility that the attackers have to their advantage. So I would be very shocked if we don't see another operator, probably in Season 3 of Year 7 here coming up, maybe October, November coming up. We'll probably see another operator that interacts with utility somewhere on this basis. But yeah, Jaeger, fantastic 3-speed. 2-speed now. He's a 2-speed now. They did nerf his speed. My apologies. Great gun. Wonderful interactions. Top tier utility. He is an irreplaceable operator. Buck. Buck is interesting. If Buck still had grenades, they took grenades away from him, he would be irreplaceable alongside Sledge. So he has the verticality, but he can also operate underneath. His ability is the underbarrel shotgun, which he can equip. He slaps it on, opens up lines of sight, holes in the wall, holes in soft floors, you name it. He can. He's like the worn Swiss Army knife. If he had those nades, he would be again right up there with Sledge. His primary AR, wonderful gun. I'm personally a really big fan with the 1.5 times sight. It shreds, good rate of fire, good damage. Secondary pistol, all right. I believe he brings flashes for his team. Yeah, I believe it's flashes, and then he might also have a hard breaching gadget. Cannot remember to save my life. I just always brought the flashes. But he's a great operator. Again, great vertical play, good lethality, good secondary fragger on your team. There's not really much more to say about him. He's thankfully like Sledge, Sledge and Buck, the more simple operators that operate like this generate a lot of value for your team. And that is good. That is a good sign. They don't need to be overly complex in order to perform. You don't need somebody that has a utility that operates across the entire board whenever you press a button and it affects every single member of the defensive side in order to have an effect. You have a very strong effect just by disrupting the floor underneath of their feet, and Buck provides that. So moving on, Frost. Ooh, trap operators galore. I love Frost. Frost is a great pick for your team. She has a the type for primary. Another one of those pencil pushing SMGs. Tet 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 tet. Weird rate of fire. Although almost all pros are in agreement that, especially in a LAN environment, doesn't really operate well for us here, the general player, the general populace for Siege. But in a LAN environment, apparently her gun is very top notch, even though it does have that low rate of fire. Frost's utility, the welcome mats, funny I know. They're basically bear traps. Place them under walls, place them at the top of stairs, place them in very unseeming positions. The middle of a floor, especially for the common player, I always swear by this. You could put a frost mat in an empty room, the middle of the floor, someone will hit it. It feels very good. Very good audio cue. Especially placing them under windows near a site, on a site, puts the attacking team in a position where they need to burn utility to remove it, an explosive utility. Very good to get something off the board and burn that utility off. Or they need to make a decision. Are they going to jump in that window, look down and shoot that bear trap, and possibly die to a gunfight, a gun peeking around the other wall, the other corner? Or are they going to jump in that window, take that gunfight, and get down by the bear trap and maybe have their teammate res them? It's an interesting mind game that plays out, and you'll notice that the better an individual is, it kind of looks like a bell graph. The more likely they are to see it to a certain point, and then as they progress a little bit further on their journey, you get into mid plat, high plat, diamond, champion. That those frost traps work more and more because those players, those individuals, they have that much more that they're trying to think about, and they can't balance everything. So 9 chances out of 10, especially at the pro level, because they're trying to overperform and work their brain, their knowledge so much, they forget about that bear trap. They didn't check under the window. They forgot to drone. I forgot a frost was on the board, and it'll down them. Gives that sound cue that somebody's there. You can bet your hiney that somebody's going to try and push and res that teammate. So you can half the time bait for them and get a 2-for-1. Frost has a great utility secondary shotgun aside from her primary gun as well, to open up rotates and the like. She is just an overall great pick. Provides a wonderful set of distraction and information for your team on defense. So moving on from that, Blackbeard. Blackbeard sucks. If you know anything about Siege, you will understand that his primary utility is a face shield that can tank one bullet, half of the time not even that. So it will block for one headshot. You better be able to win your duel if it would end in a draw, because if not, you will probably die. Slapping on his face shield also decreases your movement speed. You can only put it on his primary gun, which, shocker, both of his options are bad. You have a DMR and you have an AR that is awful. Very low rate of fire. Not so much like that pencil pusher feel, that tat tat tat. But it's just an off rate of fire. Doesn't even feel good. He has a deagle secondary, good destructive capabilities, brings some flashes, breaching charges. He fits next to no role. Whenever his face shield had a lot more health, he was the window sitting operator. He could bunker down on a window and you would never kill him. But the fact that his shield can only take one bullet even from the lightest hitting gun, is a huge detriment. It can provide a very high false sense of security. He needs. I would be happy with removing Blackbeard entirely. He doesn't even need to be in the game now. He provides that little. I'm not going to say he's worse than IQ, but IQ has a good gun. IQ has the potential to frag out. Blackbeard, unless the skill gap between you and your opponent is a chasm, you're not going to do much damage with him. You would be so much better off just using anything else. Moving on, Valkyrie. Valkyrie brings 3 black eye cameras. Toss them out. Good utility. Utility is king. Always has been. Always will be. She has an alright SMG as her primary. Secondary primary, she has like the spaz shotgun. It's fine if you want to operate with some memes. She has the Deagle secondary. Secondary utility, she has a nitro cell, complements her kit very well. Good to great. I would say she's great because, again, information is king. You can put them in some pretty ratty spots. Although, again, working counter opposition to my IQ argument earlier, if people drone properly and they're using their information well, those cams will probably get spotted out. A lot of people don't really utilize them very well. If you are doing it properly, however, yeah, I think Valkyrie, for the longest time, she might even still be like my best defensive operator. Oh, she's not anymore, but she was for the longest time. She provides a ridiculous amount of information for your team. It feels really good to get those nitros through the floor over a soft wall as well. But yeah, so she's great. Information is king, and it always will be. Moving on, Capitao. He's an attacker. So Capitao is interesting. He's good. I'd be tempted to put him into situational because he's not really utilized in the best capacity. His ability, he has a crossbow. This is actually going to be similar to Zofia. However, his util is used in a different manner. So he has a crossbow with 4 bolts, 2 incendiary, 2 smoke. The smoke does not propagate over a very big area, but it does deny some lines of sight and some intel. You can put it high on walls, and it doesn't drift down, so it doesn't fall to the floor. So if you need to block off a window that's high up, it is very good for that. His incendiary bolts. Think on clubhouses usually. that's always my best example for him. If I personally want to have my team take rafters quickly, I'll bring Capitao, and I can guarantee we can get rafters within the first 20 seconds of the round. You can shoot them, the fire falls to the floor, covers a decent area. It will deny that whole rafter area for the defensive team, and they will skedaddle. They will get out of there like their life depends on it, and guess what? It does, because it will kill very quickly. His primary weapon, he's got the para, which is a weird pencil pushing, like SMG feeling AR. He also has knock knock knock. It's coming back again. The LMG, not the best in the game, but still very usable. It is an LMG, an okay-ish rate of fire, and it has that magazine capacity that everybody's after nowadays. Secondary utility, he has a hard breaching gadget and flashbangs, if I can remember right. I prefer the flashbangs, but if you want more of a Swiss Army knife operator, you can bring that hard breaching charge to take out some reinforced walls that you might need to get off. Secondary hard breach for you. Yeah, he's a good operator. Okay guns, okay utility. He doesn't exactly always fit well on a team, but if you need somebody to do a couple of different roles for you, deny that line of sight, clear out an area, he fits well. Doesn't work on all sites, but does work on a fair bit. So yeah, he's a good operator, a good choice. Caveira. She's situational. No, she needs fixed. So her ability, Silent Step, makes her dead silent, or does it? Whenever you have it active, you can pretty much run at a full sprint, although you still make a slight bit of noise, muffled shuffle sound. So there are times where you can still hear. Most of the time you won't, but it's fairly inconsistent. Cav is really only utilized well, even at a common area like we are. to play mind games. You want somebody to go on the roam and hunt you down, play Cav. They hate Cav. Everybody hates Cav. People ban Cav half the time because they just don't want to have to deal with her. That is a waste of a ban. Cav provides so little for the defending team. Entirely selfish utility unless she can actually get her interrogation off. She has a unique secondary pistol. It's the only option that she has available to her for secondary, that if she hits somebody in the head, instead of killing one-hit headshots, it will automatically down that individual. If she can get somebody on their own, she has them downed, she can go up to them and initiate an interrogation. Nice, quick knife to the neck, and she has found every single location of the attackers on the attacking side for, what is it, 8 seconds, 10 seconds? You can see their icon wherever they are on the map and know exactly where they are. Very, very strong. Yes, very unlikely that you will get to use it because it takes, you have to guarantee that you will get that teammate down, that they have nobody around them, that you can win the subsequent gunfight if they are around them, and then you'll get it off. You'll know where every single one of their teammates are, and I guarantee you, in a 5v4, 5v3, 5v2 scenario, you versus the other team, your teammates will jump out of windows and die to claymores and walk into the line of gunfight or gunfire. And that 5v2 will turn into a 1v2 and you'll lose. It happens way more often than you would think. That overconfidence is a real buzzkill. It will lose you rounds. She is a selfish operator and needs to be changed. She needs to add a little bit more to the team. She does have impacts as her secondary utility option. She can make her rotate, but she's not going to. She is going to use it to drop down hatches and skedaddle elsewhere whenever she gets found out and is chased down. Ubi, please fix. Ubi, please fix. I love Cav. She deserves some love. She's just not usable in today's environment. Moving on to Hibana, Hard Breacher. Hibana shoots out pellets. She has a fair bit. She can shoot them in sizes of 2, 4, and 6 to open up reinforced hatches, walls. She is like the hatch operator. It takes 4 to open up a hatch. She has enough to open up every single hatch and a section of a wall. Usually for most sites and areas, maps that you'll play in. She's great. In my opinion, a fantastic primary gun, although it has a very low capacity, type 89. AR 21 bullets in the mag. Her secondary, she's got the bearing 9, which is about to be given a Glaz. She has flashbangs. Yeah, she can open up those hatches. Great utility. Impacts flashes, or not impacts, but breaching charges to open up for maybe a little bit of verticality. She operates well as a secondary fragger, along with being able to open up that wall. Very good secondary wall, clear wall opening. I don't think there's really much more to say other than the fact that she is a great operator and provides that needed and necessary utility, not always primarily, but definitely as a secondary option. And she can be forced as that primary role, and it will work. It just won't work the best. Although if hatches are your play, she's your girl. She is the best at it. Moving on, Echo, Defender. Echo is in an interesting state. So he has his primary utility. He has 2 drones that he sends out that used to be invisible. They are not anymore whenever they're attached to the ceiling. They provide intel, although they do make a little bit of a whirring noise, a woo sound whenever they're floating around. They send out a shockwave type of deal that you can burst down on the enemy. I believe it has charges of 3, charges over time. It denies plant and provides intel for your team. Disorients the enemy. If they're hit with it, their screen kind of sways, kind of fuzzes a little bit. It's interesting. Very good. His value at the last 5 seconds of the round, if one of them is still up, you have single-handedly won yourself the game, the round, because his value gets that high. Over time, and even at the beginning of the round, if they get shot at, he still provides that intel at the very basis. He has a very good kit in his primary weapon, silenced MP5. Interesting, unique for him. Secondary, he brings the Bearing 9, fantastic option, wonderful SMG. He brings impacts and a shield as well, a bulletproof shield. Very complimentary for his kit, very bunker heavy. A lot of people like to play him off site, very far away to get that denial of planting down and be that hero for your team. He's a very good operator overall, in my opinion. Moving on, we've got Jackal. So Jackal, Jackal's interesting if he is not already banned. Um, Jackal is a strong operator. There's a reason why he's banned. It's not really necessary. People just don't like to be spotted. So his primary utility, he has goggles that can see footprints. If he activates it and he scans your footprint, it will ping you for a certain amount of time. You'll see the number of pings on your lower. I believe it's the left-hand side of the. You'll see his icon pop up. So after every 5 seconds, 8 seconds, it pings your exact location, kind of like how Cav, whenever she interrogates, it shows your location, but it only does it at that one ping area. They will know where you were at that one moment. So you can kind of bait a little bit. He's good for tracking down roamers. That's usually the role that he plays, although he has a fantastic kit in his weapons and his utility. He brings smokes, great for planting, denying lines of sight. His primary weapons, C7E, and he also brings the Vector, something of the sort. It's drum capacity AR, very interesting, very neat. But his C7E, especially with the 2x sight, is top notch. Next to no recoil, fantastic gun. He's a great operator. He fits roles very nicely for tracking down those people that are trying to waste your time. Especially, and it's a secondary use of his utility, although it should be considered the primary use to be able to see people's footprint. And it is color coded for how long it was that they had passed there. Blue a while ago, red hot. They were just there, and they're probably right around the corner. You can see the direction that they were moving and the direction that they are. You can kind of track and get an idea of exactly at the point that they are. So he works for that secondary fragger, even that primary fragger at times. If your main goal is to hunt those people down. He operates very well in that capacity. Mira is a ridiculously strong operator. You would think that having such a simple utility as like this one way would be easy to counter, and most of the time it is, because there are many counters to it. But it provides such a hindrance, especially at a common level. So Mira's utility, she puts up a black mirror. One side is see-through for them, one side is not, and you cannot see through it. You will get peeked and you will die from that side that they can see through. She has 2 of them. Very good for establishing lines of sight for your team alongside rotates. She has the Vector as a primary weapon, which is ridiculously strong. It is a machine and is currently my favorite weapon in the game, just because of how strong it is. She also brings a nitro cell to deny for a lot of good lethality. Her secondary option as well is a secondary shotgun, which is provided both to her and Jackal. Very good for opening up the side of the wall that you're going to be shooting people through beside that black mirror. She's very strong. Those simple operators, again, shining through, just being able to know where you are and you not know whether or not they are behind that mirror. Even if they are, the fact that they can peek you while you are unawares is very strong. With that Vector, an extremely high rate of fire will burn through your HP like nothing, and you won't even know what hit you. She is an irreplaceable operator, in my opinion. And because of this, she's oftentimes banned. Very sad, but it's necessary, especially if you're dealing, your team is not very well coordinated. They're not going to handle that Mira.
We've got a Ying. So Ying, really good utility. So her primary gadget, she has 4. They're called candelas. Candelas being lights, flashes. She can roll them out. She can toss them out, and it spreads kind of similar to Fuze, how it spreads out in a cluster. It shoots them out and will detonate over a room. You can delay it. If thrown immediately, we'll have a couple second delay before it starts to go off. If the ability is charged and held, you'll actually see three blinking lights, and you'll get an audio cue on how it gets ready to go off. You hold it, it'll go off next to immediately before the flashes come out. They don't affect Ying. She has a visor that blocks it, which is pretty important. Pretty strong, especially in the upcoming meta here on the 14th Tuesday. With Glaz coming out, I would put her at great, just because so she does get 4 of those candelas as her primary utility. In her secondary, she has smoke grenades, which I mentioned before, and I'll say it again: if you've got smokes, if you've got nades, you might as well already be up here. It's pretty important for the meta and how the game is played. So frag heavy and push heavy right now. Which hopefully with this new smoke meta that's building up again, Glaz, Fuze, Ying, Twitch, Thermite, everybody like that, even Jackal. Hopefully it'll get a little bit more execution heavy, which is what I'm really hoping to see. But yeah, so Ying, aside from that primary utility, which can also be used similar to Fuze, it can be primed on barricades, floors, non-reinforced walls, things like that. Her primary gun, pretty impressive. It's pretty solid LMG, really quick reload. She also has a decent her secondary weapon, her pistol, is pretty okay. Again, she brings smokes, so really important, especially for the meta that's being pushed right now. Interesting to note, especially with Finka being as dominant as she is. So Finka's utility, the adrenaline boost, highlights your screen a little bit blue, recovers a bit of health, will raise you if you're downed. If you are flashed, even by Ying Candelas, and Finka boosts, it will actually remove the flash in about half the time. So it's really good for side pushes and executions like that. But yeah, Ying is great. Only getting better. I mean, just looking at her general kit, 4 candelas, 2 smokes, bare minimum, she could be used as just a utility burn. She's just a horse, a pack mule for that. So yeah, she's a great operator. So Lesion. Lesion is really interesting, kind of like Ash, where he's seen a number of uh, nerfs over the last couple of years and everything. I'd say Lesion is good. So his utility, he puts out they're called goo mines. Toss them out, throw them on the floor. They're next to invisible. They're coated kind of like Echo's yokai used to be. And if a person walks into they actually have a radius, kind of like a doorway, single doorway's width radius, that if somebody gets by them, it will trigger and basically like you've got a thorn in your foot. It doesn't do any initial damage, but it does do 4 damage per tick over time, if I'm remembering that properly. Excuse me. Provide you a little bit of intel, a really good sound cue. If an attacker hits it, because Lesion is a defending operator, if an attacker hits one of his goo mines, they can't run, kind of slowed to a walking pace, like they're walking through barbed wire, or a Lucy gadget. Also, with that 4 damage per ticket, it provides a little bit of a fuzz on their screen. So it kind of gives you, similar to Frost, that little mind game scenario of, do I continue to push? Are they going to swing me? Do I pull it out right now? Do I need to fall back and pull it out? Do I need to take this gunfight? He's interesting. He has a really good SMG. He shares his SMG with oh, for whatever reason the name is escaping me. Oryx, right here, this little ram. Un Unlike Oryx though, Lesion only gets the one-time sights on his SMG, um, which it doesn't need it. It's an absolute beast, one of the best weapons in my opinion on defense. Regular pistol is a secondary weapon. Lesion brings impacts, good for rotates. Um, he's a good operator, nothing crazy. He brings, it does bring a little bit of intel and good site setup utility for his team, but there are just others that bring better utility, like even Kapkan. Kapkan, I would say, is a better option compared to Lesion.
Um, so if anything, breaking it down, if there were like sub tiers, Kapkan would fall above Lesion in that aspect. So it's a really interesting dynamic that he falls in. Again, very usable. It's just most of the time there are others that you would rather bring. But that good gun, that really solid primary SMG, is usually that comfort pick that a lot of people fall into. So that's a lot of the time the reason why they'll bring Lesion. Main benefit, like bringing a Lesion. Sometimes you'll just want to go heavy traps if the attacking team is rushing site really quickly. They're wanting to play Ashe. They're wanting to play Zofia. They're wanting to play Finka. They're wanting to toss nades and get in there really quickly. A Lesion, a Kapkan, a Frost. Bring a Castle. You bring an Aruni. Really just force them to slow down and take their time and hit those traps and trigger them. Lesion does really well in that zone or that play style. So moving on, we've got Zofia. So Zofia is very interesting. This is a dynamic that you will see. Usually, she would be comparable to Ashe. So Zofia's utility, she has an impact launcher, like Ashe's. But unlike Ashe, it's not delayed. It detonates on impact, so it's not going to be harmed by anything that's electrified. It will still detonate automatically on that impact. Um, but unlike Ashe, she has a secondary use to her utility, and this brings her similar to Capitao, where she has stuns that launch out, and if they enter a proximity of an enemy on defense, they will detonate, and it causes a little bit of fuzziness on the screen, a whole lot of blurring. Um, Sometimes it feels actually oppressive, like you can hardly see what's going on. Especially for myself, I'm colorblind. It definitely harms me. I mean, on attack, I have a hard time seeing the white and black cams, default cams that are placed on the outside of the map. So getting hit with a stun like from a Zofia or a Ela has a similar effect with her ability. Really can ruin your day on the inside. Um, but the huge difference, aside from just that utility from Ashe that Zofia has, is in her primary weapons. She used to have a really solid AR, but they heavily nerfed the recoil on it. So for a time, it got next to unusable. It's all right now. Still hard to use. Probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest, weapon to control on attack. But her LMG for her other primary weapon is absolutely top tier. One of the top weapons in the game. Siege is kind of, at least for the past season, has turned into a mouse one dominates. In a lot of my matches, a lot of people might sometimes freak out and call out nice shots or say, oh, you're doing so good, and you just respond back, I held mouse one for 15 to 20 seconds, and they walked into the line of fire, and Zofia does that like nobody else. But so with that utility, the fact that she has the explosive impacts with her launcher and the concussions that provide intel and stun for pushes, she also has breaching charges. So there's a little bit of vertical play there with her. She's a pretty great operator. She's an interesting primary slash secondary entry fragger. Um, can open up lines of sight. She has, like, again, those breaching charges as a secondary utility for some vertical play. An amazing primary weapon. Her secondary weapon as well. The pistol has a unique reflex sight on it. She shares with Ela, Malusi, um, Clash, I believe, also has it. I feel like there's one more. Warden also has it. Uh, Suit and tie guy right here. Their secondary pistol has a unique reflex sight, which is really interesting, really good. A lot of times you'll see memers, Medium Arlene, everybody using it for one taps. It's a pretty cool weapon. But she's a great operator. Falls really good in that entry fragging role for your stacks and everything. She's great. Provides a lot of utility for the team. All right, moving on. Her sister in the lore, Ela. So Ela is a defender. A little bit of animosity between the two. Her primary gadget. Excuse me. Um, the little cotton candy machine. She has three. They're just referred to as Ela mines.
that she can throw out within a general proximity. If somebody enters it, it will detonate, and like Zofia's um, primary utility, that concussive effect, it will kind of flash the screen green, blur it, make it a little hazy. It's pretty good. It's mainly used for some intel. A lot of the time, I like to play her as a roam and pocket one of them. Just if I want to take a certain gunfight and everything, I can kind of toss it out and get that preemptive jump on a any attacker that might be trying to swing me and everything. It gives me like that slight one up. It's pretty fun to use. She's pretty fun. 3 speed. Um, Her primary weapon, the Scorpion, extremely high rate of fire, very difficult to control. If I can remember the first like 12, 15, 20 bullets out of the magazine, I think she's got like a 50-round magazine. In her weapon, it's used to be really high. They've played with it over time, and I guarantee they will again. After the first like 12, 15, 20 bullets, the recoil gets pretty outrageous. So you after those first few sets of bullets and everything, you kind of want to reload and reset that recoil. It's pretty unique to Ela how they've designed that. She doesn't really do anything crazily well, aside from that primary weapon, which has that high rate of fire, really hard to control. She also has a primary shotgun, Ela Shoddy. She's the only one that has it. It's rapid fire. It's pretty strong for very few sites. A lot of people like to bunker down, like on Canal, top site, Red Stairs. A lot of people like to play her there just to swing that kill box and everything. If anybody's trying to get into elbow or take up red stairs, she's pretty strong for that. But I would say really she's pretty situational in her current state. Again, 3 speed. She's pretty fast. She has a okay weapons, decent weapons. Her utility leaves a little bit to be desired. Just a little bit of intel and disorientation. So yeah, she's just in that situational state right now. Every now and then you might want to bring her just to have a little bit of fun, but she does not add much to the team. All right, moving on. Dokkaebi, an attacker. She came out actually about the time that I was starting, the end of year 2. Um, she and Vigil, this is whenever they were releasing operators at the exact same time. So Dokkaebi, her primary utility is the phone call. So she can, it's a global, one of the 3 global abilities that attackers have available to them, but other than Dokkaebi, Line, and Finka also have global abilities, who were released the season after her, ironically. But she will take 3 seconds to activate her little call, and it will cause every single defender's phone that they use to pull out and get on cameras. It will force them to get off cams if they are currently on them, and it will ring and vibrate in their pocket to give you a sound cue as to their location for 8 seconds, 10 seconds. It's pretty good. Really interesting piece of utility that she brings. Primary weapons. She has the meme G, the boss G, with ACOG. Thank you, Bikini Body. But the one that everybody actually uses, she has a pretty solid DMR. She can open up hatches, windows, doors pretty quickly. Solid destruction for soft walls and sometimes even floors. Very good secondary SMG pistol. She actually carries 2 options for that, I believe. Like Vigil, she falls into a pretty good state. For attacker, she provides that intel, sound location, disorientation for the enemy team. She applies a lot of mind games and everything. Solid primary weapon with that DMR. She has that secondary SMG for close-up gunfights, so she has a pretty solid all-round kit. She's good. Fits that intel, that support role that a lot of people kind of take pretty well. Maybe a little bit of a flex. Some people get a little daring with her with that AR and that SMG secondary. She can take some pretty good gunfights. So yeah, she's in a good state. Now moving on to Vigil, a defender. So Vigil is very interesting, a pretty unique operator. His primary utility that he activates basically makes him invisible to drones. Drones will have a spiking indication
screen if they're watching them, that will notify you that Vigil is somewhere near. He could be above, he could be on the floor above, he could be on the floor below, he could be on the same level, he could be directly next to it, and there's a little bit of an audio cue, a buzzing, a clicking sound, almost like dial-up, you might think, just to alert you that he's near. But the fact that drones are the single most important piece of utility, info is the most important currency in this game, that makes his ability ridiculously strong. On site, off site, he is single-handedly by himself the best roamer in the game. Even though his ability is extremely selfish and does not add much to the team, that roaming presence, being able to waste time for the attack, or for your side to take time away from the attacking team and be that nuisance that Vigil is, makes him extremely strong. And in my personal opinion, he is an irreplaceable pick. There's nobody that does his job as well, even close to as well as him. And then throw together the fact that he has a really good primary weapon and secondary weapon. Primary weapon, K1A AR, very strong, easy to control, decent rate of fire. It's a little off, but it's still decent. Secondary SMGs, very strong for close-up gunfights. He brings impacts for rotates and sight setup. He is just all around. His whole kit really works together, and puts him in a very good spot. He used to be used really heavily in Pro League, like Bolo on TSM used to play him a fair bit. G2 always had a few people. I think they even have a G2 Pro League skin in the on the shop. He's just one of those irreplaceable picks. Solid gun, extremely good utility, very unique, very strong. Secondary utilities, awesome secondary weapon, 3 speed. What more could you ask for in a roamer? So I think we can just move on from there. Pushing over to Lion, Parabellum season, year 3, season 1. Wow, what a throwback! All right, so he came out with the release of the Villa map. So Lion's utility, one of those global abilities, he can activate it in there's a drone that hovers over the entire map. Excuse me. If a Lion is in the round, you can actually see it on attack or defense. If you run outside, you can see it over the map. So all he has to do, you activate your primary gadget. After a 2-second delay, you'll see it charge up. It will start to vibrate and hum. It's really good for blocking sound, in my opinion. That is in my opinion the most annoying part of him, as if I were defending against him, the fact that it makes that noise. But while it is going off, if any defending operator moves, it will actually red ping their exact location in rapid succession over the 2-3 seconds that it's going off. It can be pretty strong. A lot of coordinated teams will use him, sort of like with the that flash smoke meta, pushing with Ying, nomading up, disorienting with Dokkaebi. It's a very, for a time, especially in season 3, before they had reworked his ability, it was extremely oppressive to get pushed with Yings and smokes everywhere. They're planting. You've got Jackal pinging you. You're flashy. You don't know what's going on, so you're trying to reposition, and they know your exact location because Lion's ability is up, and you're getting pinged exactly where you are. In those really good coordinated stacks, he applies a whole lot of really good pressure. He's a solid primary weapon, Vector LMG. He also has an AR, but most people, at least personally, I would say use the Vector. It's pretty solid, high magazine capacity, high rate of fire, high damage. Why wouldn't you want to use it? He also carries flash grenades, flashbangs. Great complement to his kit. I would say he's a pretty good operator. Kind of falls into that pick with Dokkaebi, pretty disorienting for the enemy team. The main downside, I would say, with Lion is the fact that you can bait it pretty well. Usually, if people are using him, are trying to execute with him properly, it can be an easy tell. They're getting ready to push from a certain area, so a solid pre-fire can kind of take it out, or sort of like I do if I'm ever playing against a Jackal. Usually, if somebody is going to Lion ping, especially if they're out of position or hunting down roamers, you can pretty much guarantee roundabouts where they are. They've seen you, they know where you are. You can play off that information for your own self and your team. But he's a pretty good operator. All right, so moving on, we've got Finka. Finka, really interesting for the time being. I know that they're not going to be nerfing her LMG anytime soon. That won't come until the next season, season 3. So be a solid 3 months before we see any change to that. She's an irreplaceable pick. Your best primary, secondary, attacker currently, or she's your gunner. All of her weapons are absolutely top tier. She's got an LMG that a lot of people are bringing. A lot of people are saying it's overly powered. I don't really see much of an issue with that, other than the fact that it has that high magazine capacity. Aside from the LMG, she brings a spear, which is she actually shares with Thunderbird on defense. It's an AR with high damage, extremely low recoil, like next to nothing. Her primary utility, Finka boost. It's actually called the Adrenal Surge. She activates it. It will heal you for, I believe it's 20 health. It will res down teammates. Like if everybody is downed on the team, including herself, she can pop it and it will res them all. Again, including herself. Apply that 20 point heal. It reduces the amount of time it takes for you to reload. If you have an adverse effect like a Lesion Mine, if you're flashed, anything similar to that, it will actually neutralize or reduce the effects of that. That being said, if you are Finka boosted and you run into a Lesion Mine, it will actually nullify the effect. So it's a pretty interesting interaction there. At least if they haven't removed it, it's very niche and usually doesn't happen. Also, if you have the Finka boost active and you run into smoke, you'll take extra damage, or the smoke's beauties. You'll take extra damage over time, that dot damage. But just the fact that she has that global ability, she's global healer, awesome guns, carries frags as her secondary utility, can res down teammates all the way across the map, reduces, especially with that LMG, the amount of time it takes to reload. She is just an irreplaceable pick. She adds so much to the attacking lineup in one operator. Destructive capabilities. She has a high fragging potential. Can heal for your team. Can res for your team. Doesn't even need to be there. She can set away from everyone and have an effect that is unreal, kind of similar to Jager. She doesn't even need guns to actually have an impact, which speaks volumes. That's the story for these operators in the top section, that irreplaceable area. They don't even necessarily need guns aside from Sledge, because that is his entire role. To have an effect. Their primary utility and the role that they play by itself is just strong enough to land them in this category. So we can move on. We'll take a look at Alibi. Right down here, Alibi is a defender, 3 speed. She's seen a lot of ups and downs. She has a 1.5 times sight on her primary weapon, SMG, which has a high rate of fire, the MX Storm. A lot of people use it. I currently prefer her. She is a slug shotgun primary as well. I prefer to bring it. Has high damage, high destructible capability. I like to make rotates for my team, and not to mention it feels pretty good whenever you get a one tap with it. Has a nice sound to it. It's not even semi-automatic. It's fully automatic, even though it does have an off rate of fire, pretty slow rate of fire. Her primary utility, the Alibi Prisma. Pretty interesting. She has 3 of them, canisters. She throws them down, they kind of pop out. They have to have a little bit of a radius in order to be able to activate with nothing above them. And it puts up a hologram of her default skin, default gun, no sight, anything like that. So it's easy to tell the difference typically. But if any individual would shoot it, take any piece of intel through it, like a drone, it will actually spot their exact location 3 times in rapid succession. Will spot them in the attacker lineup at the very top left-hand side of your screen, right-hand side of your screen, whichever side you're on. A lot of people like to place them in front of windows, common pre-fire areas, just to get that little bit of intel. Kind of disorients a little bit. Her secondary weapon that she has, secondary, it's the bailiff, secondary shoddy, just to open up, again, for rotates, open up hatches, a little bit of destructibility there. She also brings impacts as a secondary utility and a bulletproof shield. I'm pretty privy to the bulletproof shield. You can always use one. It allows you to really bunker down and hold control of lines of sight, maybe just the bomb sites themselves. Like I said, she falls into a pretty interesting category. You see her a lot in Pro League right now, which is ironic just because she has so much utility and that really strong, that really good gun. Um, I would say I personally, I would want to place her in good, but I can't deny the fact that she brings so much for your team with that the destructibility, bulletproof shield, just to bunker down for your team. She provides that intel, has a good gun to frag out, 3 speed, so she's pretty quick, doesn't make very much noise. She's in a really great state right now. Um, Definitely wouldn't sleep on her. A lot of people kind of avoid her, and I would say that that's a mistake. She's pretty strong in her current state, the current build. Um, Her counterpart, that was released alongside of her, Maestro, the meatball. He's also seen a lot of changes. So his primary ability, the bubble, Maestro Cam, it's a bulletproof camera, bulletproof glass that you can actually activate and control. Um, Other teammates currently now as well can also move them and look around, rotate them. But Maestro himself can actually activate it, remove the bulletproof glass for a period of time, for as long as the charge is available, and actually shoot a taser, which has, for the context of Siege and infinite range, does a small amount of damage, but is very annoying and will down someone if they're trying to plant. It sees through smokes, so it's pretty strong there, and I would say it's going to be extremely prevalent in this meta that's coming out today, Tuesday the 14th. With Ying, the new operator Sens, he's going to be able to see through that. His primary weapon, he has an LMG on defense. Nothing more you need to say. High rate of fire, extremely high magazine, mouse 1 go burr. Secondary weapon, he has the bailiff to open up rotates. I believe he has impacts and a shield as well, or his impacts and barbed wire. But he can open up rotates, a little bit of destructibility for his team. He is also in a great state. If not, he is almost in that irreplaceable tier. But he provides that intel for your team with those cameras. He can do damage. He can see through smokes. He can stop plant progression, just to freak people out and everything, because even though it does a small amount of damage, he can rapid fire that taser that comes on his bubbles, the Maestro cams. Uh, and again, with that Alda, that LMG primary, he's a force to reckon with. No one in their right mind ever wants to swing a Maestro unless they know they can win that gunfight, because he will burn you through. So yeah, he's in a really great state alongside his counterpart with Alibi. Moving on, attacker, we've got Maverick. Maverick is technically a hard breacher most of the time, especially for the common, the average player. He's used as like a support for that hard breach. You see him alongside Ace, Thermite, things like that. He has canisters, his primary ability, with a blowtorch. So it has a limited use that he can actually burn through reinforced or non-reinforced walls and hatches, open up a line. There's a systematic approach called Maverick tricking, which is apparently a bug that the devs have decided to keep in. Does add a pretty neat level of difficulty, and in my opinion, he is, because of this very reason, the most difficult attacker to master. Has a very high skill ceiling, but you can essentially take his torch over a reinforced wall, burn through the top left corner all the way through the middle, and you will actually see the portion, if you're ever doing it, that you need to specifically burn out that far left in that middle section, along the top and the bottom. And if you do it properly with no gaps, it will cause the reinforcement to break down and fall off of the wall, so that wall can then be impacted or sledged or Zofia charged. Just about anything you could think of that has destructible capability. You can even toss a nade at it if it's cooked, timed properly, and destroy that wall to allow for run-throughs and rotates and everything. Um, because of the fact that he has that really strong primary utility, is an essential hard breacher himself. Can assist if he's a secondary hard breach as your support. He has an insane gun with his M4A1, very strong. It's like the old Ash R4 R4C. Other than the fact that it actually has a controllable recoil, 1.5 times sight on it. He brings nades as a secondary utility for that destructible capability. Can take off mute jammers and everything through the floor. He is an absolutely irreplaceable pick. Um, like I said, you'll see a lot of smokes and characters that bring grenades. They'll almost always, at least currently, be either great or irreplaceable right now. But Maverick he's that essential hard breach that you need almost every single site, every single round. He is good for walls. He's good for hatches, even alone, if not to assist. Has the nades for lethality, destructible capability, really strong primary weapon. Has a unique secondary pistol. Nothing special there, but all around his kit just makes him extremely influential in the round. Very strong, irreplaceable. He's almost an entire necessity in and of himself to bring. So we can move on. We'll look at Clash, who's released alongside of him. So Clash is a defender, extremely unique defender, the only defender that brings, similar to Montagne, a shield. Difference being, Clash also does not have a primary weapon, but her shield, when equipped, can tase, electrify, and slow attackers. She's a pretty solid shield counter. Montagne versus Clash. Clash will win because she will do damage through his shield and provide knockback. That electrification that she has does dot damage over time. Small, but it does matter if she's very consistent at doing it. A lot of people do not like Clash at all, especially in the current meta. Most people find her annoying, think that she's useless. Personally, I think, especially in a coordinated stack, she provides a great amount of utility. She can single-handedly stop pushes. If the attacking team knows that you're bringing a Clash, with the 6 pick is gone, the attacker repick is currently in the current build and everything, you will see 3 people swap off of their Finka, their Maverick, their Sledge. You'll see them go to Nomad, Capitao, and Zofia just for the fact that they're going to try and take out this Clash because they find her so annoying and useless. Most people just don't know how to actually push at her. Just because she acts as that, she acts as a drone in and of herself because she can't really be damaged from the front with this shield, and she can do damage herself. She's a pretty strong pest, is the way that I would describe her. She's not going to do a lot of damage, but she will provide a fair amount of utility. Her secondary utility, she has impact grenades. She can open up rotates for your team. Maybe if she's down somebody, luckily with her electrification on her shield, she can impact and finish them off, do a little bit of damage to a secondary individual. Her secondary weapon, she's got a pretty decent machine pistol as her secondary weapon. Like I said, it's pretty strong. She also has she shares like the Zofia Ela Malusi Warden pistol with that unique reflex sight. Pretty good in and of itself as well. Personally, I would say she pretty much she falls in a good situation, a coordinated stack. If they're able to actually utilize Clash, they have a good Clash player that player can Clash trick, take their shield, swap it to their back, and 180 with their SMG. If anybody is reliable at doing that, it's a pretty annoying, good pest to actually have on your team. Very annoying to play against. That being said, if you actually know how to play against a Clash, it's usually a pretty easy encounter. You just have to melee your shield. It causes a little bit of knockback, similar to Blitz or Montagne if he has his shield up and it's not elongated out. If you melee them, they kind of have that knockback where it swings the shield to the side and you can retaliate with your weapon at that point. It's a brief window, but it is pretty strong, easy to take advantage of. But even still, even though there's a fair bit of drawback with Clash, just the fact that she has that pest role, she can do damage. She acts as an intel drone in and of herself without being able to take damage. She's pretty good. The only downside I would say, if you do have a teammate that likes to block off walls, kind of can be counterintuitive. A lot of people like to nade over her, so you need to make sure that if you have somebody that's bringing her, you're playing off of it appropriately. But other than that, yes, she's a pretty good pick. So moving on, we've got Nomad. Nomad is an attacker primary utility. She has the Nomad Air Jab. She has 3 small blinking yellow lights that she can shoot out that will adhere to any surface. And if an individual runs into their general vicinity, their area of effect, it will cause a knockback. It will shoot them backwards. They have a pretty quick recovery out of it, but it's great for intel. It causes that individual that got knocked back to panic, at least most of the time. Pretty strong. She is, in the game's current state, the best flank watch that we have in the game because it's a passive flank watch. You don't actually have to hard watch the angle. Primary gun, she has the AK. She also shares AK-47 with an underbarrel, so you don't get to have any grip attachments. She shares a primary weapon also with Yana. Aside from that, um, I wish I could remember the name of it. That's usually the one that I opt for. They're almost identical, however, in their damage and their rate of fire. They just have slightly different recoil patterns. But being the fact that Nomad is the best flank watch operator in the game, passive watch, pretty strong gun in her primary. Secondary pistol is unique to her and Kaid on defense, who is her counterpart, which has a zoomed in sight. She also brings flash grenades. She's pretty great. A lot of people see her as a necessity if they're trying to set up for specific executes, just to block off rotates, block off lines of sight. If anybody pushes from that general direction, you'll get that sound cue, makes them vulnerable for a period of time, even though they have that quick recovery. Will cause defensive teams to panic. Stops any runouts for the most part if she's actually utilized properly. She has those flashbangs to also burn utility on the defensive side. She's pretty great. She's in a really great state right now. So we can move on. We've got Kaid. Kaid's a defender, 3 armor, 1 speed, decent health. Brings a very essential piece of utility, the Kaid Claw, similar to Bandit. Even though Bandit has to set his on the floor, the Bandit batteries, Kaid Claws, he can toss them up. They have a short delay until they're activated. It fills over an area of effect, and then it will electrify whatever wall or hatch is currently in that area of effect for the Kaid Claw. He carries 2 of them, and you can put them in some very pesky areas to deny Callie or Maverick or someone that's trying to nade to actually get them off. So if on certain sites, if played properly, the Kaid Claw either has to be shot out with a Twitch drone taser, or it needs to be physically shot by the enemy team. So he can be extremely strong on some certain sites, just for the fact that a lot of people do understand the meta and understand how the wall denial works. I wouldn't say he's necessarily irreplaceable, just because a lot of the time, even though it is pesky to deal with, if people actually take the proper steps and they've droned out, it is something that can be handled. I would say he's in a pretty great state. Aside from his primary utility, his secondary utility, he carries a nitro cell for good lethality area denial. He also has in his primary weapon the AUG, which I'm not exactly a big fan of. I think it's a little bulky for the screen. His other primary is the TSG shotgun, slug shotgun. I prefer to use it. I can open up rotates for my team. It has high damage, easy to control, not bad recoil at all. Very fun to use, very satisfying if you get a kill or a one-tap with it. His secondary weapon that he brings is that unique pistol, kind of alongside Nomad, with that very zoomed in scope. Hard to control, but still fun to use. Again, fun for the one taps. Yeah, he's in a great state. Brings a pretty essential piece of utility. If Mute were not so strong, he would be in that irreplaceable spot. But since Mute kind of is that catch-all, that jack of all trades, can deny Thermite, Hibana, just about everybody that you look at other than Maverick. The fact that Mute is up there kind of lands Kaid in that great spot, not irreplaceable. So we can move on. Next attacker we've got is Gridlock. So Gridlock is pretty interesting. Similar to Clash, yet not. She's not exactly as pesky, but people don't exactly like Gridlock. They don't like her because they think her utility is bad, and I will say, and I'll break this down at a later time whenever I actually go into how you would play Gridlock. It's because people are using her incorrectly. People like to think of Gridlock as flank watch. They think of her as a worse Nomad or a worse Zero, because Zero has his cameras that can flank watch and everything, even though it's active. But Gridlock, her main purpose is going to be for execution, and especially in this meta that we've got that's brewing, that's coming up with Glaz, the new operator Sens, with Ying, with Twitch, with Thermite, with Fuze. She is a great operator. Her primary utility, the Gridlock traps, she tosses them out from a single canister. It will actually wheel out and eject some like spider traps, some spike traps over a floor. It will cover a general area pretty much entirely, unless you're putting it in a staircase. It operates a little wonkily there, a little weirdly. But it will cover an area, and any individual that walks over those traps will take sustained damage as long as they're walking over them. It's not much. I believe it's like 5 damage a tick, 6 damage a tick that they're walking on it, but it adds up extremely quickly if they're trying to progress over it. It provides a sound cue. If an individual does see it, at bare minimum, they're going to want to shoot it out. If they walk over it, you can actually hear them taking the damage. It provides an audible tick, a clicking sound while they're walking on it. While the traps are being ejected, it's a noise block because it does provide a sound. Gridlock's secondary utility, she brings smoke grenades. So with her primary utility, she has 4 of those that she can throw out and cover huge areas. The 2 smoke grenades, so kind of like Ying, she can burn up that defender utility, those Jagers, those Wamais. Even if you just want to use her as that kind of pack mule, she works really well in that capacity. She has a strong, 2 strong, very strong primary weapons. Her primary AR, ridiculously underrated in my opinion, one of the best on attack. She also has a primary LMG secondary weapon. She carries the Super Shorty, a 3-shot shotgun, so good for some destruction, some verticality play and everything for her. She can open up lines of sight with it. Again, just an overall entirely underrated operator. The fact that she is a 3 armor 1 speed is what I think really draws people away from her, because people like those fast, those quick operators, they want to feel like they can take gunfights. If Gridlock was even a 2-speed, people would play her in every single round just because she provides that much value to the team. In this meta coming up, I think you're going to see a lot of people switch over to her for that specific reason. So we can move on to her counterpart that came out in her season as well. We've got Mozzie. Mozzie is interesting. He's like a pseudo Vigil Valkyrie combo, kind of. So his main role, his primary gadget that we've got right here is the pest launcher. So he can shoot out 3 pests that cover again an area of effect. An AoE that if any drone piece of utility comes into contact with that area of effect, the pest will grab a hold of it, and Mozzie can then take control of it. He can operate it, he can drive it anywhere that he wants. He uses it just like any attacker would their drone. So not only is he taking away that essential piece of utility that the defenders have on their side, or the attackers have on their side, he gains 1 piece of visual utility, some informative utility for the defending side. It is an extremely strong primary gadget that he has, because information is king in this game and always will be. So just for that fact alone, he's an irreplaceable pick. He operates almost exactly like Valkyrie, other than the fact that you actually need to be able to be that go-getter and take that piece of utility from the attacking side, although there's a guarantee that you at least get 1 every single round that you use him if you're doing it properly. A lot of people just set them up tops of stairs, into doorways to make sure that they can burn it out. I would suggest that you at least keep 1 in your pocket to use actively in order to shoot at a drone. That way you can guarantee that you get 1 off. Other than his primary utility, his secondary utility, he carries that C4, so he has that verticality play, that lethality, and that area denial, similar to Valkyrie, so you can play him in that way, which is very fun, but I would suggest playing him in like that Valkyrie Vigil kind of hybrids. You can kind of roam with him, use his drone selfishly if you want to, or as that secondary roamer, you can kind of drone out for your Vigil and provide that intel and really play off of that. That's extremely strong. Mozzie's primary weapon, 2 very strong options. The Roni SMG 1.5 times sight. What more do you need to know? Even though it has a very small magazine capacity of 16, if you've got 1 in the chamber, I believe. It's ridiculously strong, very high rate of fire, headshot machine. Absolutely no recoil. His other primary is the Commando, which hits very hard, much more reliable magazine capacity, still has a decent rate of fire, and has the coolest reload animation in the game, and let's be honest, that's what we're looking for. So just his all-around kit, the fact that he removes that information utility, those drones, from the attacking side and adds it to the defending side, takes away that information from the attacking side that is so influential and provides it for you, he's an absolutely irreplaceable pick. Moving on, we've got Knock, who is an attacker. So Knock also has an extremely unique gadget. It's a crossover between Caveira, you have that Ubi Please Fix category, and Vigil. So when activated, her Hellspice, can't even remember the exact title of her primary gadget. When activated for a period of time, she, as long as she's walking normally, not running, not going through barbed wire, anything of that sort, not shooting her weapon, as long as her utility is activated, she cannot be spotted by surveillance on the defending side. She also does not provide any sound for her footsteps, so she's pretty sneaky, like Cav, as long as it's active, and cannot be viewed by drones, like Vigil, as long as it's active. Makes her a very interesting pocket pick to pull out if you're wanting to work a certain angle. If you've got 4 people pushing from one side and you want your Nook to kind of be sneaky and maybe find a pick from the other, or you're all trying to rush and you just want your Nook to be that kind of dagger to the heart and everything, she can kind of fall in that role. Pretty good primary SMG. She actually shares it with Smoke and Mute on defense, the FNG. It's a pretty reliable 1.5 times sight, absolutely no recoil, high rate of fire, headshot machine. She carries the Deagle on defense. She also carries grenades, which again are pretty essential in the current meta that we've got going on in Siege, with this high destructibility being important, the lethality, the mouse one go burr, it's all about kills. The only downside to her is the fact that her utility is pretty selfish, just in and of itself. Either she's going to get a kill or she doesn't, and if she doesn't, she's essentially doing nothing for your team. She's not even really wasting time because it is the attacker's role to aggress that site and be able to take it and cap that site. So just for the fact that she does not have a very team inclusive gadget, I would say she falls into like that good category, almost situational. But she does have that really good kit that comes along with it. She can provide a little bit of disorientation with those nades and everything. And if somebody does notice that there's a Nook on the enemy team, you do have a little bit of that mind game, kind of like with that Caveira or that Vigil. She really is a good hybrid. Of the two, and because she is that good hybrid, she falls literally dead center between the two in that good category. So moving on, we've got Warden. Warden is very interesting. Basically the biggest joke of the Siege community as far as operators are concerned for the longest time, and he is about to see his chance to shine. He can activate his ability similar to Glaz. Warden can see through smokes. He won't be affected by flashes, which is different from Glaz. So yes, see through smokes won't be affected by any flashes. So he's good against any smoke producing operator. Good to aggress those plant situations whenever they're trying to execute. He can counter the new operator that's coming out, Sens, who's that neon wall wannabe, basically, who's just his only goal is to block off lines of sight. Warden can see through that, even if it is only for a time. Um, he has a really good SMG primary. He shares it with a Valkyrie, the MPX. Only difference is Warden gets the 1.5 times sight on it, so as much of a headshot machine as it is with no recoil, it is a much better on Warden just because of that sight. He shares the secondary pistol with like Zofia, Ela, Clash, Malusi, has that unique reflex sight, so it's, in my opinion, the best secondary pistol in the game. Um, he is going to be in an interesting state, just because his primary gadget will require you to actively use it and have that proper timing in order to get any value out of it. For the current time being, I'll have to place him in the good category. He may go up to great. He may even approach the irreplaceable category if this smoke meta, if it gets to be the Glaz Ying meta that we saw like season 2, season 3. Um, he could bump up to that irreplaceable category. His secondary utility in Warden is he has the Nitro Cell. Of course, that's what you're going to want to bring. Great for plant denial. That's kind of going to be his role. It's his role in this stage is going to be specifically just to counter those smokes, those Yings, those Fuses, those Twitches, those Thermites. The smokes that they bring in order to execute and play off of and sends to block off lines of sight. Warden's main role coming out is going to be to stop that, and you're going to see a huge increase in Warden bans. I guarantee it. Warden is going to shoot up the ban list, and it won't be a meme anymore. It's going to be for a specific purpose, and that's going to be because people are trying to play smart and they're trying to play to the strengths of the game and the meta, which is going to be those smokes and denying sight and sends. I think we can move on. We've got the attacker Amaru. I always get the names confused between the attacker and defender. So Amaru, interesting piece of primary utility. She basically has a repel launcher, allows her to quickly access sites, swing through windows and doors on higher levels and everything. She can go up hatches as well with it. So she has the highest mobility in the game, 3 speed, very good primary, secondary weapons. With the G8 LMG is a primary weapon, the SMG is her secondary weapon. Extremely reliable, heavy fragger. She has hard breaching charges if you want to use her as like a secondary hard breach. She brings flashbangs, so she kind of has that little bit of Swiss Army knife potential to her. Although because her primary utility is so go heavy, so push heavy, so frag heavy. Most of the time, you don't see her used optimally, because it does require that really strong 5-stack that's coordinating very well. In order for Amaru to see actual good utility play, to see her utilized properly, you have to have your other 4 teammates ready to collapse onto a site. She is best in a scenario where you are all gung ho and you are all ready to swarm and take out a paralyzed defense. But because most of what she has going for her is using that element of surprise, and it's just as easily to catch off guard whenever she's swinging in, she's going to fall into that good category. Even though she has one of, if not the best weapon in the game with her LMG, solid secondary weapon. She has those flashes to disorient. She just doesn't provide enough use for the attacking side, having to be those aggressors and a lot of the time having to deal with the utility that they have to deal with in order to go or encroach on any area outside of good. If she may not even fall into the good category, she could at best be seen as situational. But since she does have those really frag heavy weapons, I think it's fair to give her that chance and then put her in that good category. So we can just move on from her. We're going to go to Goyo. Goyo, it's going to be a controversial opinion, at least I feel. In my opinion, he is the single best defender that we have in the game right now. Changing him from not having he prior to the season that had just come out, Year 7, Season 1, Year 6 and prior that he was actually introduced to the game, he had shields, bulletproof shields that he could put gas canisters on the back of that could be shot, detonated, and exploded. Ubi decided to rework him over a lot of public complaints that the community had, and so what they've done is they've taken away his bulletproof shield. They've given him the Goyo canisters. He has 4 of them that he can place on walls and floors that can then be shot off and provide that similar to Capitao, the fire effect falls onto the floor over a very decent area. Different to Capitao, however, is Goyo's fire lasts for 20 seconds. So each canister, and he has 4 of them, when shot, denies a large area of effect for 20 seconds. And if somebody decides to run through that fire, they will lose 3/4 of their health, half of their health, almost guaranteed. It's an extremely strong piece of utility, especially if utilized right. And you'll see if you've watched any videos from Gregor on YouTube, maybe Get Flanked has spoken about it before a couple months ago. Um,
in Pro League, teams like Dark Zero just won the Charlotte Major and everything. Go Dark Zero, go DZ. Utilize him in a very effective manner. Goyo can be utilized in a way, placing up his canisters, that will just cause the attacking team to completely avoid an entire side of a map because they don't want to deal with his utility. If they do push that side, or it comes to be the last 30 seconds, we've talked earlier about the value of operators going up as rounds go on, or being consistent throughout rounds. He has a very high consistent value throughout the entire round just with his utility alone, and as the time ticks down, that that uh that value only goes up. It goes higher than Smoke, it goes higher than Tachanka. He has one of the highest values of any defending operator in the game, specifically off of his utility alone. His primary utility. Secondary utility, he brings a Nitro Cell. Why not? Really good lethality. He can deny area. He can play from underneath. He can roam with that. He can play off of his own gadgets if one of them detonates and everything, and he knows where it is if he has intel for where that thing has been detonated from. His primary weapon, the Vector, in my opinion, the best weapon on defense. Vector, go burn. Mouse 1 is extremely strong right now. His secondary weapon, just a regular pistol, but who cares? His kit overall, absolute S+ tier. He is, again, in my opinion, the single strongest defender in the game, and I would love to see more people utilize him properly, utilize him at all. I believe currently, within the past season, I've maintained like a solid 86 cost, 86-ish% cost with him. My KD with him is well over 3 point, I think it's like 3.2 or something like that. But far and away, my strongest defensive operator, who used to be Valkyrie, it's definitely switched over to Goyo just solely because his kit allows for you to get those kills. He allows for you to get that value over his entire kit. Utility alone will provide that for you. I think we can move on. Next attacker that we have is Callie. Callie, unfortunately, we're going to... her utility. She plays a role similar to Thatcher, where her main job is to remove wall denial, or the defensive utility that is barring you from opening up the wall. So bandit batteries, Kaids, mute jammers. She can destroy bulletproof utility as well with it. So she fires the lance from her sniper rifle that she has, single shot sniper rifle. From an underbarrel canister. It will travel over a distance, barrel into a wall, and then detonate on the other side. Actually, on both sides. With a small area of effect, it will do a small amount of damage, 5, I believe, if you're actually in the general vicinity, but will destroy anything within that area of effect, as long as it's not blocked by an indestructible wall. So she does have a lot of utility that she can bring. However, most sites where you would want her, because Thatcher is banned, somebody's going to be playing that Kaid, and they can put their Kaids in a manner that will completely avoid Callie's effective radiance of her lance. So it almost neutralizes her utility just because the Kaid has a bigger brain. Although because she has the utility that she does have, and it will see an effect, I have to place her into good, even avoiding the rest of her kit as a whole. Speaking of that kit, so her primary weapon, single shot sniper rifle. If it hits anywhere but the arm of any operator, it should down them unless they're a 3 armor with a Rook bulletproof vest on. Aside from that, it will down them. Unfortunately, that does make Rook a direct counter to Callie, and a lot of people like to play Rook because he has those good guns. He provides that utility for his other team, and you don't have to think about it. So her sniper rifle is next to useless. You'd be better with any other weapon in the game 99.99% of the time. Her secondary weapon, she does bring a secondary SMG, which is better. It allows her to have a little bit more flexibility in close quarters and everything. It does give her that one up. But that middle range gunfight, which a lot of fights happen that happen in Siege do land in that middle range, she is next to useless unless you can land that one shot that will down the enemy. If you leg them or you hit them in the arm, they're going to kill you anyways. Similar to
like bringing Blackbeard. If you can't win off of that one bullet, you're going to die, and most of the time that happens with Callie, more so even than Blackbeard. But specifically because she does bring the utility that she does in her primary utility, we'll put her at good. Secondary utility is a Claymore. It's fine, good for runouts, jump outs, areas like Chalet, things like that, or Clubhouse. No big deal. But yeah, she's a good operator. We would love to see her actually have any other weapon. So she would be viable since Thatcher is banned so often. But unfortunately, I do not believe that is going to be coming into the game. So yeah, she's good. I would love to see her fixed. She almost falls in that Ubi please fix category. But we'll just move on from there. So Wamai, very interesting. So he plays a role similar to Jager in the fact that his utility, whenever it's tossed out over an area of effect, AoE, if a throwable piece of utility would enter its AoE, it actually absorbs it instead of deleting it like Jaeger's ADSs do. Wamai's gadget absorbs it. The magnet actually draws it to it. Will reset the timer on grenades and flashes. Like Ying's Candelas will reset those timers entirely and then cause them to go off wherever that magnet was. So you kind of want to make sure you place it outside of or away from your teammates' other utilities. Just because you don't want to cause it to be destroyed and everything, and lose points and feel toxic in that manner. But again, because Wamai does bring that gadget, although he gets them over time, does not get them immediately like Jaeger does, because he can interact with those throwables, those grenades, those smokes, those Ying Candelas that are going to be so prevalent, especially in the upcoming meta. He's in an irreplaceable state right now. He and Jaeger kind of just fit that role. Even if they brought nothing else to the table, no weapons, they're almost a necessity. You almost always need a Wamai or Jaeger, if not both, because they complement each other with their role so heavily. They're almost needed. So his weapons, aside from that, he brings the if I can remember, the MP5K, which is a primary he shares with Mute, I believe, if I can remember properly. Aside from the MP5K, he also brings the AUG. Not a big fan. I'd rather just stick with the MP5K. Secondary pistol is all right. I believe it's the one that actually has the reflex as well as Malusi in them. He brings impacts as well to make rotates. He also has beepers for intel. So barring his primary utility as a whole, he does have a strong SMG primary weapon, strong secondary pistol, strong secondary utility. He's an irreplaceable pick. I would highly suggesting using more Wamai if you are not. Move on, go to Yana. So Yana. She, similar to the defender Alibi, Yana being an attacker, can actually create a hologram herself and then control it, can cause it to move, unlike Alibis, which are stationary. So Yana can essentially get a free drone that, if not shot, will regenerate every 5 to 10 seconds. She can drone out areas countered by mute, of course, because it is electronic. But she has a heavily strong piece of primary utility in the fact that she gets free intel. She can cause that intel to go through Aruni gates and disable them. She gets will provide it freaks out the defending side because she does it looks real, looks like you're actually operating her in the regular capacity, not being in her unique ability, other than the fact that she cannot shoot obviously while she's in her hologrammed state, so your character is vulnerable. But you can take her in, similar to droning for a teammate, and allow someone to take aim at the hologram, and your secondary individual, your primary fragger that you're supporting, can actually swing and get that kill. Really strong in that capacity. Can take out those Aruni gates like we previously spoke about. Free info for yourself and your entire team. Yana has a lot of good capability since she provides that info to be very high up on this list. Aside from her primary utility, she also brings a really strong gun, the ARX that she shares with Nomad. That's the name of it, the ARX, and the G36C that she shares with Ash, both of them very strong weapons. I prefer the ARX because I don't really play Ashe, so using the ARX allows me to get that practice that I can have both with Yana and Nomad, both of them being 3 speeds, having that strong gun, that decent capacity, the high rate of fire, the high damage. Yana's secondary utility, she also brings the grenades. A regular pistol is her secondary weapon, so her kit overall extremely strong. Just for the fact that she provides that utility for the team. She has those nades for the destructibility, the lethality, can take off things from reinforced walls, can remove everything like that, utility from the defensive side. She's a great operator, if not irreplaceable. 3 speed, she provides info, great guns, great utility. What more could you want on an operator? She's currently my best attacker, I believe. She and Osa kind of been swapping back and forth. I have a much better KD with Yana, because with Osa I usually fall much more heavily into that supportive role. I'm trying to take that control for my team, not be that gun. I'm basically intel whenever I'm playing Osa. For Yana, I can be that intel and that gun. I can provide that support for my team while being that gun that can watch their flank, that can take out. I can take that primary fragging role if I need to, because her gun is just that strong. So yeah, she falls into a very great state. Her secondary weapon as well. She also carries the Gone 6, which I have not previously talked about. See, Gridlock also has the Gone 6. Glaz did carry the Gone 6. Finka has the Gone 6 as a secondary option. So the secondary option, Gone 6, has a single shot use explosive destruction of utility. It can open up a barricaded door instantly. It will destroy bulletproof gadgets. Most people use them to either destroy like a Maestro bubble or a bulletproof shield. Very quick, very strong piece of utility that we've seen come into the game. A lot of people laughed it off as a joke. But the thing is, over time, as time has gone on, those operators that you see have that Gone 6, like Glaz, like Finka, like Yana, like Gridlock, that can rely on that to hot drop a hatch, to quickly open a door, to take off that piece of utility that the defender is playing behind in a very quick, successive manner with that strong gun that they have, and the destructive capability of their grenades has really compounded into a state where we can rely on the guns that we use in order to get those kills. So we can play in that very strong, that very push-heavy fashion that allows us to quickly execute, quickly take sites, and just mouse one our way through to victory. So since she has all of that in her kit, Yana, she's in a really great state, if not irreplaceable. I'll put her at great just because I don't want to seem too biased, but she provides that intel, she provides the lethality, destructive capability, and support for her team, all necessary. So you will continue to see more of her in 5-stack lineups, individual solo queue play, and pro league. For the general common player, she is extremely strong. She's a great pick. So moving on, her counterpart that came out after her, Oryx. Oryx is a defending operator, also a 3-speed like Yana. His primary utility is the Rama Dash. Oryx is basically just strong. He can bust through non-reinforced or soft walls. He can, with his secondary weapon, he carries the Bailiff for destructive capability. He can open up hatches and actually jump through just off of his own physical prowess. Hatches. So in that fact that his utility is entirely based off of his own capability and does not rely on any form of electrical or gadget, makes him an extremely unique operator. Very interesting to see and to work with. He is a pretty good roamer just for that fact, but because as he does use his Rama Dash to either break through a wall or open up that rotate, or even to just move from one room to another through doorways, he is much faster, if not double the speed of your regular operator. He's a very effective roamer, a huge pest, because if he can get away and jump through hatches, fall through hatches, rotate around the map, especially for bigger maps like Bank, maps with a lot of hatches like Bank or Consulate, can be extremely annoying to deal with. He's a very big pest, similar to Vigil. Even Kali, like similar to how Kali is such a pest. And a good Oryx utilized properly can be very annoying to play with or play against. His primary weapon, he has the SMG that he shares with Lesion. I wish I could remember the name. The T5, I believe. SMG, very strong. Oryx actually has the 1.5 time sight on it. extremely capable high rate of fire headshot machine secondary weapon in the bailiff. His secondary utility that Oryx brings is the beepers, the vibe alarms. So very good pieces of utility. His kit is very synergistic for himself and your team, if that is exactly what you're going for, to be that pest, that information provider, and that time waster that you're going for. But because his utility is a little bit more on the selfish side, doesn't really provide much other than the fact that you can make rotates to the detriment of your own health. He's going to fall in that good category. He's not bad. He definitely does fit a proper role, although people like Kapkan, Vigil, I mean, especially Vigil, especially Mozzie, just fit that roaming role a little bit more, um, because they just provide a little bit more utility for your team as a whole without detrimenting their own health, their own safety. So yeah, he's a good solid operator, good state. Ace is an attacker. He's a hard breacher. Very strong hard breacher. All hard breachers, no matter what, at least have to fall into the great category, if not irreplaceable, because their utility is so strong. So Ace's primary utility, he has the Selma charge. He has 3 of them, so he tosses them onto a wall. It drops like a packet that will extend out and open up a very small, not jumpable hole in the wall, or not, you can't crawl through the wall, but it does. After the first one breaks through, it will drop a second one down and provide a hole that you can actually mount through, or crawl through, or crouch through, sorry. And since he does carry 3 of them, he is usually the most viable hard breaching operator aside from Thermite. You see him played oftentimes almost essentially in place of Thermite, just because he has a strong gun in the AK-47. And he fits that hard breaching role just so well. The only time that you really would not want to utilize him is if you're trying to take hatches, because he only carries the 3 Selma charges. 2 are necessary to actually get through a wall, and it actually takes 2 to open up a hatch. So if you open up a hatch, you're not going to be able to open up any actual hard wall other than to just create a line of sight. Ace is 2 armor, 2 speed, against strong gun in the AK-47 for his primary. Secondary weapon is just the generic pistol, no big deal. He used to have smokes, he does not anymore. Currently he has flashbangs. So it has dropped him off a little bit. If he still carried smokes, I would probably place him. I mean, he'd be in the same role, but I would place him above. Excuse me. I would place him above Thermite in the role that he takes, just because having those smokes allows you to assist your team in a little bit better of a fashion. Currently, right now, Ace, with that strong gun, his primary role, as long as he gets that wall open, is to kill things. He does have that strong gun, and he can do that very well as long as you can control the recoil, because the recoil was nerfed within the last season or 2 for him. But yeah, not really much to say about him. Pretty strong kit. He's a hard breacher. He falls into the great category. Moving on, we've got Melusi. So Melusi, defender. Believe she's a 3 speed. Can't exactly remember. Might be a 2 armor 2 speed. But for the current time being, we'll just say she's a 3 speed. Her primary utility, the Melusi gadget that she has, is a small, I guess you would call it a trap that has, again, shocker, an AoE, area of effect. If anybody enters that area of effect, it will actually cause her gadget to open up. We call it, it will provide a wub sound, a wub 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 wub, and slow anyone within the general AoE of it. It slows them down to the paces if they were walking through barbed wire. Very good for information gathering, disorienting the enemy. Only downside is if somebody is in the area of effect, whenever it opens up, it does take a second, but they are able to shoot it out, and it will destroy the gadget. But no matter what, if they come into contact with it, you will, bare minimum, get that sound cue. It is bulletproof aside from the time that someone is in the area of effect. So if they destroy it before they actually walk into it, it will just take something destructive like a grenade, a Gone 6. So no matter what, you're getting a sound cue from this gadget. It's very good in a solo queue capacity, just because teammates aren't exactly reliable, and you can rely on your gadgets and your free intel from this from her primary utility to watch your back. She has a very strong weapon in the primary weapon in the MP5. She shares with the Doc and Rook. Her secondary weapon is the that pistol with that unique reflex, so it's pretty strong as well. Secondary gadgets, I believe she has impact grenades. She can open up rotates. Overall, just a really strong kit. Um, and currently speaking, I would place her in the great category just for the general player. She's very annoying to play against if you don't know how to play against her properly. Pretty quick. She can be a little bit of a pest, a little bit of a nuisance. She provides that intel, that sound cue for your enemy team. She has very strong guns, very good lethality for you. So yeah, she fits a pretty strong, a pretty great role for your team. Moving on, we've got Zero. Zero is such a fun attacker, and in my opinion, very underrated. Um, Once upon a time, he had grenades whenever he was originally released, and whenever he had those grenades, I would have loved to have seen him utilized to replace Ash, um, because he had that destructive capability that she brings as well in those grenades. So Zero, his primary ability, um, Zero, also known as Sam Fisher, Tom Clancy's Sam Fisher. So his primary utility, his primary ability, is he can send out 4 cameras that, similar to like Callie's launcher, can actually barrel into reinforced or non-reinforced walls, floors, hatches. Um, and you can actually flip it to view either side. Can see through smoke, highlights enemies green, and it also has a single-use taser that charges over time. So after you've used it, you have like a 15-20 second cooldown till you can use it again to remove utility, like a mute jammer, like a bandit charge, like a Kaid, claw, things like that. It won't take out anything bulletproof, but can interact with those. Can even take out Miras. Can shoot the canister on Miras. Very interesting, very cool. Can take out Goyo canisters. Sorts like that. So primarily his role that you would believe he would fall into would be flank watch slash intel, since he does provide that intel for your team. It is a very strong gadget if utilized properly. Now, Zero is the ultimate Swiss Army knife because he has the strongest weapon on attack currently. Physically, the strongest. It has the highest damage per second, mirroring only the AK. Only thing is, his primary weapon that he carries has little to no recoil whatsoever. The fact that he has the flank watch capability, the intel capability that he carries, his secondary weapon that he brings, the Gone 6, um, extremely strong in and of itself, that we went over earlier. His secondary utility, he brings the can openers, the hard breach gadgets. Again, very strong. So he is that ultimate Swiss Army knife. He provides intel. He has the lethality in his primary weapon. He has the capability to remove defender gadgets and have that quick initiation with the Gone 6. His utility overall is just absolutely fantastic. Bare minimum to burn, if not for the direct execution and take of general sites. Currently, he's not exactly utilized very much, which kind of breaks my heart. Similar to Malusi, he's kind of like that optimal like solo queue operator because he is such a strong Swiss Army knife for your team. He can do it all. He might not do it the best, but he does it all, pretty much whatever you would want. And for that purpose, I'll place him in the great category. Um, if we continue to see him progress and be utilized a little bit more in the metas that are coming out, I think you'll see him climb even more. He may even breach into that irreplaceable category. He's a very, very strong attacking operator, and very underutilized and underappreciated. Moving on, we've got Aruni. Aruni, irreplaceable. Her gadget. She's a defensive operator. She has the Aruni gates. She can place over. She has 3 of them. She can place them over doorways, windows, and hatches. Um, once placed, they will actually eject a laser gate that will either eat up a piece of utility thrown through it for a second before it will shut down, or if an individual walks through it, they will take, used to be 40 damage. It might be 20 now. But no matter what, if an individual walks through the gate or something is thrown through it, it will cause a form of damage to them. Extremely strong piece of utility, especially because after a delayed charge, something has been thrown through it, it can actually be reactivated and re-upped. So if somebody doesn't immediately play off of the fact that they've opened up that gate, it can be reactivated and they'll have to go through the whole process over again.
it is one of those few pieces of utility that, if not handled properly and dealt with, will actually single-handedly stop rounds or attackers from being able to complete a round and win a round because they won't be able to progress any farther. If that individual, if it's a 1v1 scenario and all Aruni gates are set up on a site, through all lanes, no attacker can get through. They have no drones, no secondary utility to throw through it, no primary utility to throw through it. They have to tank damage in order to get through, and they're low on health. They've lost the round. It is one of those very few pieces of utility that can end it for the attacking team if not dealt with properly. Just because of that reason, she is in that irreplaceable role. She eats up utility, eats up info for the enemy team, provides a sound cue, does damage, all in one gadget, and it can be reactivated by anyone. Very strong. She has a secondary, a passive ability actually as well. We don't see very many of those, especially anymore because they've removed most of them. In the fact that whenever she melees, her melee is a punch and it has a very high destructive capability. So instead of being able to put a punch hole in the wall, she punches out a whole square section of the wall, so she can open up whole rotates for her team just off of her passive ability alone. Her primary weapon in the Aruni, she doesn't have a 1.5 times sight, but it's still very strong, a headshot machine. You've been seeing, I'm sure, a lot of more people opting for the DMR that she also brings on defense, which is pretty unique for a defensive operator because it has that high destructive capability. Again, very high lethality, 2 shots down, 3 shots kill for the absolute most. Um, Her secondary weapon, just a generic pistol. For her secondary utility, she brings either barbed wire or a bulletproof cam. I would highly suggest bringing the bulletproof cam because, again, information is king in this game. The more you have of it, the better. So you can definitely provide that for your team. So again, just to recap, an absolutely irreplaceable pick. Her utility that she brings is S plus tier, just all around. It pretty much does it all for you and can single-handedly win you rounds. Strong primary weapons, secondary weapon is so. It is what it is. And a pretty solid secondary utility in the bulletproof cam. So yeah, irreplaceable pick. Moving on, we've got the one of the newest attackers. We have Flores. So Flores, pretty interesting as well. All of these operators have extremely unique abilities, and Flores definitely falls into that category. So he carries in his primary utility 4 extra drones. Difference being, his drones are on a timed basis, and they basically have a bundle of C4 strapped to them. So you can take them through just anywhere you would usually take a drone. Other than the fact that once you've started his utility, his drone, it will not stop until you've activated it or it is destroyed. So you take it into an area, very good for utility destruction. Just to play out a scenario, you're playing on coastline, you're trying to attack kitchen, pushing through service. You can just take his drone right through a drone hole or through the front door, assuming it does not get destroyed. Take it up to a bulletproof shield, activate it. You might even get a kill out of it because it detonates with about the same radius as a nitro cell from defense, and he gets 4 of those. So he provides that utility, that destructible capability. He removes utility from the defensive side. Very interesting, very strong pick. If you watch any pro league, you'll see him banned a fair bit on areas like Oregon, just because he can be so strong for taking out that utility that is so important in order to actually aggress and take certain areas like Elbow from the basement side, Blue Elbow from the basement side of Oregon, or like Freezer area from the basement side. He can be utilized on essentially every single site of the entire game. Getting away from his primary utility, he has flashbangs and claymores in his secondary utility. Both good. He can either burn or place those claymores for assistance, block out runouts and jump outs and everything for your team. His primary weapon, he actually shares with Thatcher in the AR-15. Very strong. He has the 2x sight. Personally, one of my absolute favorites. Very strong weapon. Secondary utility, generic pistol is what it is. But just for the fact that he has that strong utility and very strong gun, an overall good kit for your team, I'd say he falls into that great category. If he's utilized properly, in a 5-stack can be very good to coordinate and collapse with a team, just because it has that destructive capability and can disorient the formation of a defensive side. Especially in solo queue, because he does so much. He's again one of those like Swiss Army knife operators, not so much so as Zero, but in and of itself, because he can do so much. He's very good for a solo queue take.
So yeah, he falls just neatly into that great category. Moving on, we've got Thunderbird. Thunderbird, better doc. So she survives on defense, 2 armor, 2 speed. She has 3 canisters that she can set down that have a charge time once they're charged, and an individual that has taken damage currently runs into their area of effect. It will heal them. She carries 3 of them. She can put them down at the very start of the round. She can pocket one if she wants to roam and assist with the roam game and heal herself over time. Just to use something like that, you can even use it to bait. Bolo actually has a video from 3 or 4 months ago that he put up where he had one across the map with a nitro cell set on the other side of a soft wall next to it, and he was able to watch it through the wall, watch that it actually got activated by an attacker on the enemy team. He activated a nitro cell, wiped that attacker from the face of the earth. Very interesting interaction, very fun, hilarious. So Thunderbird is essentially like the primary healer for teams now. It's really taken away that role from Doc. She is just a better Doc in every single way. She has the spear that she actually shares with Finka from attack. Very strong AR, very strong option for you on attack. Her secondary weapon, she actually carries the Bearing 9 as well. Extremely strong secondary option. So since she takes that primary healing, strong kit in her weapons overall, and her secondary utility, she has that nitro, so she's an absolutely fantastic operator. She lands in the great category. I don't think you'll ever see her bumped up to irreplaceable, just because she doesn't offer as much utility as others as far as the information game is going, or denying her area of effect. So you'll never really see her encroach on the irreplaceable role, but she'll probably always fit neatly in that great zone. She has that high fragging capability, and she can heal herself and teammates over time. What more could you ask for in somebody you want on your defensive side that's going to get kills? So I think we can move on. Move on to Osa. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to place Osa in irreplaceable. Osa's main or primary ability is that she carries 2 completely clear bulletproof shields. She can walk up, set them down, pick them back up. She can once they're placed, she can shoot out the canister from below, and it will remove it even from a distance. They can be destroyed with with explosives from the enemy side, so either nitro cells or impact charges will destroy them. She also brings a pretty strong primary weapon. That I believe she shares with Lion, their Vector LMG, extremely strong for the fact that she has that shield. She can be that really good intel operator to push and aggress initially, and have that weapon is an extremely strong combo. I've spoken about value many times throughout the course of this little video right here. And Osa provides that in spades. The name of the game, especially on attack, is taking control of areas, lines of sight, general positions on the map, and Osa does that better than any other attacking operator in the game. She is the best post-plant operator by a mile. Especially in my opinion. In her secondary utility, she even brings smokes to assist with the plant. She is an essential flex operator. Important to have in literally any lineup. She works on any site, and can operate in a solo queue capacity or extremely well in a 5-stack. She's utilized extremely well on the in Pro League. You see a Canadian player on DZ, I've mentioned him before and I'll mention him again, utilizes her in an extremely efficient manner. He's one of the most capable minds in Siege in our Pro League scene right now. So from the absolute newcomer to the general common player for Siege, all the way up into Pro League, she is an irreplaceable pick, and I would highly suggest you use her. Moving on, the next operator we've got the old defender Thorn right here. Thorn, interesting gadget. She's another trap operator, 2 armor, 2 speed. She throws out the razor blooms. They have a general, you guessed it, AoE. If somebody walks into it, it has a wind up, a whirring sound before it detonates. If somebody's close enough to it, it will actually kill them. If they get just outside of the area of effect, it will do a small amount of damage, but it is for the most part a lethal trap similar to Frost. Bare minimum, it provides you a little bit of info to the direction that they're coming. Her secondary utility, she brings a bulletproof shield. You definitely want to bring that. I don't even care what her other option is. It might be barbed wire if I can remember properly, but just bring the bulletproof shield. Her primary weapon, she has a unique weapon for her. It's actually a 50 caliber Uzi. I believe it's unique to Siege as well. It's like it's a fictional weapon. So has an off rate of fire, like a pencil pushing weapon, sort of like Frost brings or Capitao in his para. Has that pencil pushing rate of fire, but it is very strong with high destructible capability, like a 3-shot down, 4-shot kill guaranteed, pretty much from any range. Pretty interesting since it has that off rate of fire. The fact that it has so much lethality. Secondary weapon, she brings a machine gun, machine pistol, secondary that she actually shares with Vigil up there and a couple of other operators. She's pretty good. I don't think she provides as much utility as like Kapkan or Lesion per se, but she can definitely hold her own. She's a very unique take. Kind of similar to Ela, where instead of being just detonating and disorienting the enemies, it will actually hurt slash kill the attacking side because it does have that lethality, and she has the weapons and everything to back it up, and that destructible capability in the 50 cal Uzi for primary. Interesting, good, nothing crazy, fun to use. Definitely not situational or in a state that she needs to be fixed. I think good is the proper place that we'll kind of see her fit. You won't see her very often, but whenever she is utilized, it's pretty fun. So I think we can move on to our final operator that's currently in the game until the new patch releases here later on today. We've got Azami. So Azami is the most unique operator that we have in the game. I've been using that word a lot right now. But she falls into a category that the Ubi devs are currently calling like architects of Siege. Instead of destroying or removing areas, instead of destroying walls to create lines of sight, she just physically creates them on her own. Her ability that she uses, she has a kunai that she can toss out. Wherever it impacts, it creates like a cement bulletproof barricade that can be destroyed with explosives. In a it creates the barricade in a circular fashion, so she can block off doorways, she can block off whole hallways, stairways. She can create very, very, very extremely unique lines of sight and one ways for all of you people that like to spawn peek. And she has the attacking kit, the or not the attacking kit, but the defensive kit with her weapons to actually be able to get those kills. For that reason, I'm going to place her in irreplaceable, just because she is fairly new. It'll be interesting to see how she plays out, but she actually fills a unique and special role that it's kind of up to the mind of the individual that uses her into her effectiveness. She's a little bit selfish. She can also be used to bunker down sites and provide just pure support for your entire team. If an individual wants to roam with her because she has those good guns, she actually shares the 9x19 in her primary with Kapkan. That a very strong SMG, next to no recoil, high rate of fire headshot machine. Her secondary weapon, just a generic pistol. It is what it is, but she also brings impact grenades to open up rotates or destroy her own barricades extremely quickly if you want to get the jump on somebody or the drop on somebody. She because she fits that architect role, she can actually block off if somebody's opened up a the one of the reinforced walls that you've got on your defensive team. She can operate quickly in that capacity, and she's using her ability in a reactionary way. She can block off that hole. She can block hatches. She can literally bunker down for your entire enemy or for your entire team. Just create kind of like a little niche square that's hard to aggress, especially if the attacking side doesn't have any explosives to deal with her. She's very, very special in the fact that she can create those lines of sight, and has that architectural aspect to her. And just because of that, even though she may not be as strong as the other irreplaceable picks, she currently fills a role on defense that nobody else can even touch. No one does even a hair close to what she does.